Chapter 784. Wang Daoyuan had always been curious about that. The Imperial Regency had the doppelganger soul nurturing art, so how many soul formation cultivators could do? They had dominated the Xianxia Zhou Xian community for tens of thousands of years, so they should have a lot of resources. After traveling in the Xianxia Zhou Xian community for years, he had a lot of understanding about the strength of the Imperial Regency. The Imperial Regency was at its peak before it was destroyed. There were 5 soul formation cultivators who showed up frequently. Including those who were in seclusion all year round and those who never showed up, there were at least a dozen of them. Even if the leading forces in the Seven Stars Alliance worked together, they wouldn't be able to defeat the Imperial Regency, let alone take over their headquarters. Elder Qi sighed. These things aren't a secret among the older forces, but they've been hiding it from the rogue cultivators. With Daoyu's strength, it's only a matter of time before he learns about these things. More than 7,000 years ago, the Grand Elder of the Imperial Regency, Divine Lord Yufeng, reached the peak of the soul formation stage. Besides, he was a spirit body cultivator and was only 3,000 years old at that time. Soul formation cultivators had a lifespan of 5,000 years. 3,000 years old was the prime of their life and their potential hadn't been used up yet. But the entire Xianxia Zhou Xian community, including the Endless Ice Sea and the Demon's Islands, didn't have a level 7 spirit meridian or a level 7 spiritual item, so it was impossible for him to reach the Mahayana level. However, there was a dangerous place thousands of miles to the east of the Xianxia Zhou Xian community called Song Dragon Ruins. It was said that there was a huge level 7 spirit meridian and a lot of level 7 spiritual items there. There was only an ancient teleport array that connected the two places, which was controlled by the Imperial Regency. Divine Lord Yufeng went to Song Dragon Ruins through this teleport array. When he reached the Mahayana level, he might be attacked by beasts. He only brought 2 late-stage soul formation cultivators with him to Song Dragon Ruins. It wasn't important to Wang Daoyuan how the Imperial Regency was destroyed, but the Song Dragon Ruins was very valuable. With a level 7 spiritual pulse, he could break through to the Mahayana realm. There was no upper limit to the lifespan of a Grand Ascension cultivator. Even though there was a chance that a Grand Ascension cultivator would experience the tribulations of their essence, energy, and spirit if they lived for over 10,000 years. However, it wasn't impossible to overcome this tribulation. As long as one could withstand this tribulation, they would be able to live a long life. This was the highest pursuit of every cultivator, so he had no choice but to take it seriously. Wang Daoyuan quickly interrupted, "What's up with the Blue Dragon Ruins? Tell me in detail." Elder Qi had an awkward expression on his face. "How can I explain this clearly? Everything about the Blue Dragon Ruins was left behind tens of thousands of years ago. At that time, the Xianxia Zhou Xian community still had Mahayana cultivators. They could tear the void and perform space jumps. Hundreds of thousands of miles to millions of miles was no different from a single step to them. It was not difficult to travel between the Sea of 7 Stars and the Blue Dragon Ruins. Almost all the legends about the Blue Dragon Ruins were left behind from that era. Since the Xianxia Zhou Xian community lost its Mahayana cultivators, no one could travel to the Blue Dragon Ruins. There were many cultivators who went to the Blue Dragon Ruins through the teleportation formation, but none of them came back alive. Now that tens of thousands of years had passed, no one cared about the Blue Dragon Ruins anymore. After all, the Xinhai sect was not the Imperial Regency, so they didn't know many secrets. They only heard that there were many remains of divine beasts there, and most of them were true dragon skeletons. That's how the Blue Dragon Ruins got its name. As for the details, I don't know." Wang Daoyuan was also a bit disappointed. He said, then continued to talk about the Imperial Regency's destruction. Elder Qi nodded slightly and continued, "Although the Imperial Wind Lord left secretly, there's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. There were spies from other sects in the Imperial Regency, and the news was leaked decades after the Imperial Wind Lord left. If the Imperial Wind Lord succeeded in his breakthrough, the Imperial Regency would be able to unify the entire Xianxia Zhou Xian community. The other forces would either become vassals or be destroyed. Naturally, the soul formation cultivators would have no way to survive. Coincidentally, the Jadeite Sword Sect's Imperial Wind Lord also reached the peak of the soul formation stage. Also, he didn't have much time left, so he was determined to fight before he died. Under his instigation, Several forces with deity transformation cultivators hit it off and decided to take advantage of the situation and destroy the controlling spirit sect. The other forces in the Xianxia Zhou Xian community had the same motive, just like the Beiyuan Zhou Xian sect. After Lei Yanzhenren reached the Yuaning level, the Divine Weapon Pavilion immediately became the leader of the human race in Beiyuan. If it weren't for the restriction of the Ancient Mighty, the Divine Weapon Pavilion could easily unify Beiyuan. The Sea of Seven Stars didn't have any restriction of the Ancient Mighty. Once a Mahayana cultivator appeared, they would definitely expand. Also, a Mahayana cultivator didn't have a lifespan. They had endless years to slowly unify the Sea of Seven Stars. Wang Daoyuan asked again, even if the Imperial Wind Divine Lord took away 2 Soul Formation Realm cultivators, it shouldn't be a problem for the Imperial Spirit sect to defend their territory given their wealth. Why were they destroyed so easily? Elder Qi sighed. Wasn't it because there was a mole? At that time, a Grand Elder of the Imperial Regency had a grudge with the Imperial Wind Lord. He was afraid that the Imperial Wind Lord would deal with him after he broke through and cut off his lineage. He betrayed the Imperial Wind Lord when the Imperial Wind Lord tested him. They colluded with both inside and outside and let some demon beasts cause trouble in the outer sea, attacking the Imperial Regency's properties and luring the Imperial Regency's soul formation cultivators away. Then they worked together to take down the Imperial Regency, killed the sect master and a Grand Elder who stayed behind, and destroyed the foundation of the Imperial Regency. Even the teleportation formation to the Songlong ruins was destroyed, so the Imperial Wind Lord couldn't return at all. Those soul formation cultivators who were transferred out had no choice but to escape to various places to protect themselves without the protection of the sect. There were still many Imperial Regency cultivators hiding in various secret realms, but they didn't know what was going on outside, so they didn't dare to act rashly. In the end, these forces were the ones who asked for it. After they succeeded, they slaughtered the Imperial Regency's affiliated cultivators. They forced these forces to unite and fight against them. The Alioth Sword sect and other sects also had many conflicts in order to fight for the territories left by the Imperial Regency. The remaining forces of the Imperial Regency also took the opportunity to come out and had the tendency to turn the tables. The Alioth Sword sect and other sects had no choice but to unite all the forces that had a grudge with the Imperial Regency and form the Seven Stars Alliance. The two sides fought for more than 2,000 years before the current situation gradually formed. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Where's the Imperial Regency's soul cultivation wood? I heard that it didn't fall into the hands of the Seven Stars Alliance." Elder Qi shook his head. There are many different theories about this. There are more than 10 theories now. There are 3 credible ones. First, it was taken away by the Imperial Wind Lord. Second, it fell into the hands of a certain force of the Seven Stars Alliance, but they didn't say anything. Third, the leader of the Imperial Regency at that time felt that things were not going well, so he asked someone to take the soul cultivation wood away and transplanted it to a secret realm in the outer sea. The other theories are not credible. Some say that it was taken away by low-level Imperial Regency disciples during the chaos. No one can be sure of the specific situation. I've told you everything I know. Can you release my body now? Wang Daoyuan dispersed the black tortoise purgatory. I'm a man of my word. You can end your own life. Hearing this, Elder Qi's expression was very complicated. There was helplessness, sadness, and the joy of relief. After a long silence, he said self-deprecatingly, "I've been fighting for fame and fortune for thousands of years, but in the end I'm all alone. I don't even have any incense after death. My 1,000 years of cultivation is gone in a day. My 1,000 years of dream is nothing more than nothing. Hopefully, I can cultivate to the Yuanying realm in my next life and awaken the memories of this life. Don't continue to head east. That's the territory of the demonic cultivators, the White Bone Palace. The White Bone Palace is domineering. Daoyu will easily cause conflict if you go there. I should be on my way. Goodbye." Wang Daoyuan smiled. "You finally understood. I wish Daoyu the great Dao in your next life." Elder Qi threw the universe ring to him. Then black flames ignited on his body. His physical body quickly turned into ashes. The Yuanying realm also quickly collapsed. A purple gold soul appeared. It nodded at Wang Daoyuan and turned into a puff of green smoke. Chapter 785. At the same time at the Xianxia sect, a golden core disciple ran into the meeting hall in a panic. He cupped his hands to the white-robed cultivator sitting on the main seat and said, "Sect Master, Elder Chi's soul tablet is also broken." Everyone in the hall was surprised. A long-bearded cultivator stood up and said, "Elder Li and Elder Chi went out together, but they died about 2 days apart. Maybe there's something wrong with this?" The white-robed cultivator on the main seat asked, "Can you confirm where they died?" The golden core disciple answered, "I can only confirm that they died in the northeast direction, more than 200,000 miles away. I can't confirm the specific location." The sect master nodded. "You can leave." After the golden core disciple left, the sect master asked, "Vice sect master, did Elder Li and Elder Chi say anything before they left?" The long-bearded cultivator answered, "When they reported to me, they only said that they were looking for an inheritance for the sect. Elder Chi also left with more than 10,000 ghost worms. It's been 10 years. I don't know where they went. However, Elder Li had a 5th grade upper grade sword puppet, and Elder Chi also had a 5th grade mid-grade corpse puppet. The two of them were equivalent to a late-stage Yuanying cultivator and 3 middle-stage Yuanying cultivators. In this case, even if they encountered a peak-stage Yuanying cultivator, they could still protect themselves. The place where they died was more than 200,000 miles to the northeast of Xianxia Island. It's close to the territory of the White Bone Palace. The two elders were probably surrounded by the White Bone Palace. Otherwise they would have escaped. The sect master nodded. It's very likely. However, there are soul formation cultivators in the White Bone Palace. We can't act rashly. Let's take care of the Demon Flame sect first. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was on a flying boat heading towards the northwest. He didn't want to offend the White Bone Palace, but he didn't have a good place to go. Instead of taking risks, it was better to go to familiar places such as the Fire Lotus Island. There were many volcanoes there. Any 5th grade upper grade volcano could satisfy his cultivation needs. Besides, it was quite lively there. He needed to collect a lot of materials for refining weapons and elixir pills. When he returned to Zhou Xian, it would be very useful. When looking for refining materials, it was best to go to a more prosperous place. As the window connecting the myriad demon islands and the Sea of 7 Stars, the Fire Lotus Island was pretty good in this aspect. Wang Daoyuan was checking Li Xingzong and Elder Chi's belongings. Elder Chi's interspatial ring still contained a bunch of nether soul worms. Wang Daoyuan originally wanted to raise them, but it would be nice to raise another type of spirit insect. However, he didn't expect the cultivators of the Xianxia sect to be so mean. This large group of ghost worms were all male. They were already adult insects and wouldn't listen to orders at all. There was no point in keeping them, so they were all disposed of. This was also a method that large sects used to prevent their own spiritual insects from leaking out. They would only bring male spiritual insects when they went out. Even if they were robbed, the spiritual insects would not be used by their enemies. Both Li Xingzong and Elder Chi were quite wealthy. They had more than 100,000 high-grade spirit stones on them. There were also 40 to 50 nascent cultivating pills, 2 tier 4 mid-grade longswords, and more than 10 healing pills. The two of them didn't have any high-level cultivation techniques or dharma spells with them, but they each had some insights on their own cultivation. These things would be of great help to Wang Daoyuan in improving his cultivation technique. The biggest gain from this trip was the doppelganger soul nurturing technique and the sword puppet. Needless to say, the doppelganger soul nurturing technique was better than the origin returning record in terms of cultivating one's consciousness. If he could integrate the advantages of this cultivation technique into the 5 spirits immortal transformation technique, it would be of great help to perfect his cultivation technique. The sword puppet was also quite valuable. If he encountered a strong enemy, he wouldn't need to expose his sword cultivation techniques. Although the longsword was destroyed, Wang Daoyuan didn't lack it. Previously, when he killed young Master Huang, he obtained a tier 5 upper-grade longsword. It was just nice to give it to the sword puppet. Wang Daoyuan now had 8 doppelgangers. 3 of them were in Beiyuan Zhou Xian and 5 of them were in the space of the spiritual pearl. He could still have 2 more doppelgangers. It just so happened that he could plant a split soul in the sword puppet's soul. He also followed the new method in the doppelganger soul nurturing technique and separated a strand of his soul from the Yuanying. Then he consumed a few drops of the 7-leaf ghost face flower's dew. He used the dew's medicinal effects and spiritual energy to nourish his soul. Previously, in order to solve the problem of overflowing spring water, the spiritual fields in the north of the spiritual pearl were all planted with spiritual plants that absorbed yin qi. Now the 7-leaf ghost face flower had been planted in 5 mu of land. Although the 7-leaf ghost face flower was only a tier 4 upper-grade spiritual plant, it was a little slow for Wang Daoyuan, a mid-stage yuanying cultivator. However, it was still quite useful for increasing the cultivation of one's consciousness. Moreover, the 7-leaf ghost face flower could grow to tier 5. The current level of spiritual energy in the space of the spiritual pearl had already reached tier 5 upper grade. If it could reproduce in the space of the spiritual pearl for a few more generations, it would have a chance of evolving. Under the nourishment of the flower dew, a strand of his soul quickly grew to the point where it could be integrated into a doppelganger. Wang Daoyuan integrated it into the sword puppet's soul. The sword puppet itself did not have self-consciousness, so there was no problem that the split soul could not suppress the doppelganger. After putting the sword puppet into the space of the spiritual pearl, it only took half a day for the split soul to completely control the sword puppet. In addition to some battle memories, there was also a small gray mist sword in the sword puppet's soul. Wang Daoyuan was naturally not unfamiliar with this thing. This was sword intent. The sword puppet's sword intent was killing, which was the same as Wang Daoyuan's Guiyuan sword intent. When controlling the sword puppet, it could display extremely strong strength. Moreover, Wang Daoyuan could let the split soul comprehend the sword puppet's sword intent. When the split soul merged with the main soul in the future, it could also strengthen his own Guiyuan sword intent. This was extremely beneficial to the improvement of the Guiyuan sword intent. Wang Daoyuan let the sword puppet stay in the thatched cottage in the space. The Guiyuan sword diagram that he obtained from the 7 Stars Mystic Realm's Purple Star Hall was also hung in the thatched cottage. Since the sword puppet did not need to cultivate, he let it slowly comprehend the Guiyuan sword diagram. It was left behind by the Guiyuan sword Immortal and contained countless sword intents. Wang Daoyuan had not had much time to comprehend it. Now that he had the sword puppet, it was easy. Although the sword puppet's soul had low intelligence, it could comprehend the killing sword intent. It could also continuously strengthen its sword intent comprehension by comprehending the Guiyuan sword diagram. There was a large amount of yin qi and flower dew in the space of the spiritual pearl, which could continuously strengthen the sword puppet's soul. In addition to the flow of time in the space, comprehending the sword Immortal's sword intent would always be beneficial. There were more and more uses for the spiritual pearl's space. If he refined a few more sword puppets in the future, his sword intent would definitely improve rapidly. After drifting on the sea for more than half a month, Wang Daoyuan came to Fire Lotus Island again. After leaving for more than 10 years, the island did not seem to have changed much. It was still very lively. Wang Daoyuan came to the market at the north end of the island. He entered the Kai Yang restaurant and inquired about the news. The cultivators here were very mixed. There were people from all over the place. Naturally, there was all kinds of news. Wang Daoyuan ordered a few dishes and 2 jars of wine. He listened to the cultivators in the restaurant bragging. A muscular middle-aged rogue cultivator drank a bowl of wine and said to the cultivator at the same table, "A few years ago I went to the devil-slaying island to explore. The situation there was not good. The righteous sects Jinhai sect and Golden Sand sect joined forces to deal with the Devil Flame sect. However, they were still at a disadvantage. The 2 sects joined forces to wipe out the demonic cultivators and half-demons who were harassing their businesses. They did not expect to jump into a trap. The Jinhai sect lost 5 yuanying early-stage cultivators. The Golden Sand sect lost a powerful guest elder. Once these 2 sects fall, we righteous rogue cultivators will not be able to survive in the myriad demon islands. There is no place for us to stay in the Sea of 7 Stars. The myriad demon islands will also be difficult. We will be like stray dogs." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan felt relieved. It seemed that Emo Liangping and Du Zhe had escaped. The Golden Sand sect's ancestral hall would definitely have a memorial tablet of Wu Chuan. At another table, 2 yuanying mid-stage rogue cultivators were talking about the rare treasure island. A rogue cultivator said, "The rare treasure island's once-in-a-century auction will be held in 10 years. Every time the auction starts, rare treasures will appear. I wonder what good things there will be this time." Chapter 786. An itinerant cultivator at the same table laughed. Why are we worrying about this? Every time a high-grade spiritual item appears, the Seven Stars Alliance, Blood Shark and Mystic Island will fight for it. Itinerant cultivators can't even touch it. It's already good enough for us to have more than 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. But with so few spirit stones, we can only buy low-grade level 5 Dharma artifacts. Those treasures have nothing to do with us. That person picked up a bowl of wine. Yes, there are so many good things in this world, but what does it have to do with us? If we want to continue cultivating, we have to exchange our lives for resources. Wang Daoyuan was interested in this auction. When he was at Rare Treasure Island, he had asked about the auction that was held once every 100 years. However, he didn't get any detailed information, but he heard a lot of rumors. For example, there were half-divine beast eggs and level 7 spiritual tree saplings that appeared in the auction. However, this auction was backed by the Seven Stars Alliance and Blood Shark. Mystic Island would also send people to participate. The real good things had already been divided among the 3 sects and couldn't be brought to the auction. The spiritual items that could be brought out were not the best. These spiritual items were used as gimmicks to attract other cultivators. Even these gimmicks would be fought over by the 3 sections. The itinerant cultivators could only get some leftovers. However, these leftovers were very tempting to Wang Daoyuan. After all, he was only a mid-stage Yuanying cultivator, and level 5 spiritual items were very useful to him. Those big sects wouldn't be interested in level 5 spiritual items. When the time came, he could go to Rare Treasure Island to bid for spiritual items that the big sects didn't want. He didn't have a clear goal at the moment. Although the Blue Dragon Ruins was very tempting, he didn't dare to go there now. Soul Formation cultivators couldn't even come back if they went there. He would be courting death if he went there. He wasn't even prepared to break through to the Soul Formation realm, so there was no point in thinking about the Blue Dragon Ruins. He would rather try his luck at the auction and see if he could get a valuable spiritual item. In any case, he was going to return to the Mystical Treasures Island. Previously, he was forced to leave the Myriad Demons Islands by the Huang clan. He couldn't just let it go like this. With his current strength, if he used the Sword Cultivation spell and the Sword Puppet, he would be able to fight against a peak Yuanying cultivator who did not have any divine powers. Even if he couldn't win, he could make his opponent unable to do anything to him. As a semi-divine beast, Old Master Huang's Blood Flood Dragon definitely had some divine abilities. Since he was able to make the Blood Flood Dragon submit to him, there was a high possibility that he had a divine ability. If he really had a divine ability, Wang Daoyuan wouldn't be a match for him at the moment. He had just made a breakthrough in his cultivation, so it was impossible for him to make any significant progress before the auction. However, there were other methods to increase his strength, and that was the 3 treasures tool nurturing technique. Once he developed an artifact spirit, his strength would rise to another level. After eating and drinking his fill, Wang Daoyuan planned to find a place to stay. As soon as he walked out of the restaurant, a late-stage golden core cultivator came up to him and said, "Senior, what would you like to buy? I have stayed on this island for more than 100 years, so I know all the shops here very well." There were also cultivators like brokers on the Fire Lotus Island, but they were not professional brokers. Moreover, their cultivation wasn't low, and they were at least late-stage golden core cultivators. There were also quite a number of Yuanying cultivators. These people were usually pill refiners and tool refiners, and they weren't particularly brilliant. Relying on pill refiners and tool refiners wouldn't be able to earn enough resources. After pill refiners and magic tools were refined, they needed a long time to be nurtured. If they were idle during this period, it would be too much of a waste. Therefore, when rogue cultivators were nurturing pill refiners and magic tools, they would usually come out to do other things to earn resources. Among them, there were quite a number of brokers. Wang Daoyuan replied, "Help me find a house with a fire eye. I can buy or rent it." The cultivator quickly replied, "There are many volcanoes on the Fire Lotus Island, so it is very convenient to open a fire eye. There aren't many other places, but there are many residences with fire eyes. Most of the residences in the southern part of the market have fire eyes, and their prices aren't high. Senior, please follow me. I guarantee that you will find a house that you will be satisfied with." Wang Daoyuan took out 2 high-grade spirit stones. "Lead the way." The golden core cultivator took the spirit stones and led the way with a smile on his face. Wang Daoyuan was only staying here temporarily, so he didn't have high requirements. In the southeast corner of the market he found a relatively spacious house with no neighbors. The owner of this house should have met with an accident when he went out, and the house had already been taken back by the market manager. The broker then invited the manager of the market, and Wang Daoyuan used the price of 300 high-grade spirit stones to buy the house. After sending the broker away with a dozen high-grade spirit stones, he activated the defensive formation and officially moved into the house. There wasn't much room for improvement in his cultivation at the moment, so he would have to rely on the 3 treasures tool nurturing technique to increase his strength. The Yiwood essence was still lacking, and Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to wait for it to grow slowly. The fire eye in the house emitted a mid-grade 5th level fire spirit qi. Wang Daoyuan drew out a wisp of scarlet yang true fire and placed it on the fire eye. Then he extracted the spiritual fire essence from the scarlet yang true fire and refined it into his body. He used the 5-spirit immortal transformation technique to convert the spiritual fire essence into wood attribute, and then poured it into the Yi-wood essence. The 5 elements essence could store a large amount of spirit energy, and now there was no problem pouring this spirit energy into it. After integrating a large amount of mid-grade 5th level spirit energy, it could naturally increase its grade faster. After 2 years, the Yi-wood essence finally leveled up under the nourishment of a large amount of spirit energy. The 5 elements essence had reached or surpassed mid-grade 5th level, and he could finally use the 3 treasures tool nurturing technique. Wang Daoyuan took a 3-inch long section from each of the 5 elements essence. Then he needed to use his divine sense to carve extremely complicated inscriptions on them. These inscriptions didn't belong to pill, tool, or talisman arrays. Instead, they were similar to the spirit energy conversion device on the flying warship and the special inscriptions in the puppet technique. Although these inscriptions were complicated, he had a lot of experience. It took a full half a year to condense the special inscriptions on the 5 pieces of 5 elements essence. The things cultivated by the 3 treasures tool nurturing technique were invisible, and the 5 elements essence was only a temporary carrier, so there was no need to forge it. The next step was to polish it, and he needed to integrate a large amount of spirit energy, divine sense power and qi and blood into these 5 magic tool embryonic forms. After another half a year, these 5 magic tool embryonic forms could no longer absorb the slightest bit of power. Wang Daoyuan could also communicate with the magic tool embryonic forms and could command them at will. At this point he hadn't succeeded in refining them yet. He still had to integrate his own laws into the magic tool. If he wanted them to use the power of the 5 elements divine beast, he had to integrate the 5 elements divine beast's charm that he had comprehended into them. In the following time, the 5 elements essence gradually melted and turned into pure 5 elements spirit energy. 3 years later, the 5 elements essence completely disappeared. The 5 magic tool embryonic forms had completely turned into a mass of energy, and this was the most critical time to transform into a tool spirit. Next, he had to integrate it into the vision between Yuanying's eyebrows to nurture it. Only by forming the tool spirit in the vision could he ensure that the tool spirit could fully mobilize the power of the vision in the future. The final goal was to completely integrate the vision with the tool spirit. The vision was closely related to a cultivator's divine ability. If the tool spirit and the vision merged, the power of the divine ability could also be integrated into the tool spirit in the future. The 5 masses of energy merged into the Yinglong mark between his eyebrows and did not encounter the slightest rejection. Wang Daoyuan continued to extract spirit energy from the fire eye and integrated it into Yuanying. After being refined by the spirit energy seed, it was injected into the Yinglong mark. One day after 2 years, a violent fluctuation of the power of laws suddenly appeared between Yuanying's eyebrows. Then the fluctuation became smaller and gradually disappeared. Wang Daoyuan clearly felt that there were 5 things similar to the tool spirit of the purple gold exquisite pagoda between Yuanying's eyebrows. Of course, they were far from being true tool spirits. Which true tool spirit didn't need hundreds or thousands of years to be nurtured. Now they could barely be considered the embryonic form of a tool spirit, and could be integrated into the magic tool to increase its power. Chapter 787. The 3 treasures tool nurturing technique was a shortcut to condensing a tool spirit. The time required to nurture a tool spirit was much less than other methods. Even so, it was very difficult to nurture a mature tool spirit without 100 or 200 years of hard work. Wang Daoyuan summoned the 5 little fellows from the Yinglong rune. 5 balls of light the size of a longan floated out. The balls of light emitted the aura of the 5 elements divine beasts. One could even vaguely see their shadows. After the balls of light flew out, they approached the Yuanying and stuck to the Yuanying's body. These tools' spirit embryonic forms already had simple spiritual intelligence. However, they were still far from Linglong, who liked to talk big and put on airs. Not only were their spiritual intelligence incomparable, but their strength was also incomparable. Linglong could unleash the power of a Yuanying cultivator on her own without the command of her master. However, these 5 tool spirit embryonic forms did not have the ability to fight on their own. Linglong was already over 100,000 years old. After countless generations of nurturing, her foundation was still a level 7 Dharma artifact. Even the Dharma artifacts of soul formation cultivators could not reach this level of tool spirit. He controlled the green balls of light and fused them into the Tsang Dragon Pearl to perform the Tsang Dragon Restoration technique. With the help of the tool spirit embryonic forms, the healing effect was increased by about 20%. He then fused the silver balls of light into the white tiger blade. He gently swung the blade and slashed the ground. The power was increased by about 30%. This was normal. After all, the main purpose of the 3 treasures tool nurturing technique was to nurture a sword spirit. It was reasonable that it would be more powerful when used on a longsword Dharma artifact. Then he fused the other 3 balls of light into the corresponding Dharma artifacts. The power was increased by about 20%. Wang Daoyuan was very satisfied with this result. With his original strength, he could already defeat most late-stage Yuanying cultivators. Now that his strength was increased by 20 to 30%, he might not be at a disadvantage even if he fought against a peak-stage Yuanying cultivator. Wang Daoyuan also tried to fuse the 5 tool spirit embryonic forms. With a thought, the 5 balls of light stuck together and emitted a dazzling light. Then the 5 balls of light fused into a bright yellow ball of light the size of an egg. It emitted Yinglong's aura. Unfortunately, they didn't last long before they scattered. It wasn't enough to be used against the enemy, but it was fine as long as it could be fused. After all, these were only the embryonic forms of artifact spirits, and they would slowly grow in the future. After that, Wang Daoyuan absorbed the artifact spirit into the Yinglong rune and continued to nurture it. There were still about 2 years left before the once-in-a-century auction on Rare Treasures Island. It would take about half a year to travel from the Fire Lotus Island to the Rare Treasure Island. Now there was still a year and a half to increase his strength. Apart from nurturing the artifact spirit, there was no other way to improve it quickly. Now that the prototype of the artifact spirit had been formed, all that was left was to polish it. The current embryonic form of the artifact spirit was like a child, and its growth speed was not limitless. It was impossible to increase his growth rate by 10 times just by feeding him for 10 days. It should be enough to nourish it for a couple of hours every day. For the rest of the time, Wang Daoyuan spent it on refining. The Sword of Origin was not completely suitable for him. In the future, he would have to modify the Sword of Origin so that it would be compatible with Yinglong. To modify the Sword of Origin, the requirement for refining was extremely high. At the very least, he would have to be a rank 5 blacksmith. All these years he had refined some artifacts, but he had never tried to refine a rank 5 artifact. Now he could give it a try. The difference between a rank 5 artifact and a rank 4 artifact was not only the artifact rune, but also the forging method. The artifact rune also needed to be forged using the forging method inside the artifact rune. However, forging the artifact rune was not something that could be learned by oneself just because one had a good comprehension ability. A lot of practice was necessary. Having a high comprehension ability only made it easier for one to grasp the trick and take fewer detours. Among the rank 5 lower grade artifacts, the shield was the most valuable. Wang Daoyuan started with the shield and used some rank 5 Tai divine gold to forge the shield's artifact embryo. After practicing forging day and night for more than a year, he finally succeeded in forging a 5th ranked artifact embryo without any obvious flaws. Next was the inscription of the artifact rune. This process was the most crucial, but it did not take much time. 5 days later, the artifact rune was inscribed, and the artifact was 90% complete. The last 10% was in the nurturing stage. There was still more than half a year before the auction at Rare Treasures Island, so he had to leave for Rare Treasures Island. He placed the inscribed artifact rune into the artifact cauldron and stored it in the spirit pearl's space. He then placed it on the tiny golden flame to be burned. Wang Daoyuan took the flying boat and headed north. He brought the sword puppet and Qin Zhaoyi out of the space. Qin Zhaoyi was in charge of driving the flying boat, while the sword puppet was in charge of guarding against demonic beasts. His Yuanying entered the spirit pearl's space and personally guarded the artifact cauldron. Whether he could become a rank 5 artifact master or not depended on this shield, so he could not afford to lose it. Although Yuanying could not cultivate inside, it was not a problem for her to control the flames. More than a year passed in the space, and the artifact forging cauldron continuously emitted rank 5 spiritual energy waves. Wang Daoyuan's face lit up with joy as the artifact forging was completed. He dispersed the flames in the artifact cauldron and took out a palm-sized silver shield. He used his divine sense to examine the entire shield, but did not find any obvious flaws. He let the blood flame clone attack the shield with all his strength, but the shield was not damaged at all. Blood Flame was a blood demon in the late gold core stage. His full strength attack could not cause any damage to the shield. The strength of this shield had far surpassed a rank 4 upper grade artifact. It was undoubtedly a rank 5 artifact. Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed as he finally became a rank 5 artifact master. His artifact forging level was not inferior to Master Lei Yan's. A year had passed in the space, but only a few days had passed in the outside world. The flying boat was still far from Rare Treasures Island. Yuanying returned to her body every day and nurtured the artifact spirit for 2 hours. The rest of the time she stayed in the spirit pearl's space and studied how to modify her natal artifact. Half a year later, the flying boat was thousands of miles south of Rare Treasures Island. There was also some progress in modifying the artifact spirit, but it was not urgent. Yuanying came out of the spirit pearl's space. Wang Daoyuan personally controlled the flying boat and put his clone and sword puppet into the spirit pearl's space. The flying boat landed outside the southern city gate of Rare Treasures Island's market. Wang Daoyuan kept the flying boat, flashed his token and walked in. He came back not only to participate in the auction, but also to find trouble with the Huang family. Naturally, there was no need to hide his identity. The 2 gold core stage cultivators guarding the gate were shocked, but they did not dare to say anything. They only took out a jade talisman as if they were sending a message to someone. After Wang Daoyuan entered the market square, he went straight to his own small courtyard. The array was still intact and no one was staying there. He took out the token that controlled the array and opened a hole in the courtyard door. Nothing changed in the courtyard. Not long after he returned to the courtyard, someone came to visit him. This person had white hair and a white beard, and the spiritual energy on his body was ethereal. Wang Daoyuan immediately realized that this person's cultivation was far above his own. At the very least, he was at the peak of Yuanying. Looking at his face, he looked similar to young Master Huang. This person should be Old Master Huang. Since Old Master Huang came according to etiquette, there was no need for him to refuse. If they really fought, it was unknown who would win, so there was no need to be afraid. The defensive light barrier opened up a hole at the entrance, allowing them to enter. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "May I know the reason for Daoyu's visit?" Old Master Huang's expression was unsightly. He said casually, "How can you not know the reason for my visit? To be able to cultivate from early Yuanying to mid-Yuanying in such a short time, you can be considered a rare genius. There is no need for you to lower yourself and play such small tricks. You killed my son. You should know that a life for a life, right?" Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "To be able to cultivate to Yuanying, you must have killed at least a few thousand cultivators. Do I have to pay with my life for all of them? Who is your son? Why should I kill him?" This question was reasonable. After all, he was being chased by young Master Huang. He had no choice but to kill him. In terms of morality, what he did was reasonable. Chapter 788. Lord Huang was at a loss for words. After a while he said, "You can only blame yourself for robbing my Huang family." Wang Daoyuan sneered, "I don't think your Huang family's ancestor was a rogue cultivator. He must have been a pirate, and a vicious one at that. I won the water essence fair and square. What does it have to do with your Huang family? You don't have the ability to pay a high price, yet you want to take it for free. What? Did your Huang family set the rules of the Sea of 7 Stars? You're only a peak Yuanying cultivator, yet you're already so tyrannical. If you break through to the deity transformation stage in the future, I'm afraid you won't even put the Seven Stars Alliance and Shueisha in your eyes. You haven't even reached the point of dominating a region, yet you want to do so. It seems your Huang family isn't far from extinction. Wang Daoyuan's words made Lord Huang burn with anger, but he couldn't say anything reasonable. His whole body emitted powerful spiritual power fluctuations as if he was ready to attack at any time. How my Huang family does things isn't up to a brat like you. No matter what reason you have, you must pay with your life for killing my son. Seeing that he was being unreasonable, Wang Daoyuan chuckled. You're so arrogant and despotic. The Huang family's extinction is imminent. Lord Huang, do you want to make a move now or wait until I leave? Lord Huang snorted coldly. A brat like you isn't worth it for me to violate the market square's rules. I'm only here to see what kind of person dares to go against me. As for taking your life, there's no need for me. With that he flicked his sleeves and left. Wang Daoyuan didn't care. If he didn't do it himself, then he could only send the late Yuanying cultivator from the Huang family or ask someone from the assassin organization to do it. The assassin organization could only send someone at the late Yuanying stage. A peak Yuanying cultivator was the master of a region, who would come out to do the dirty work. Ordinary late Yuanying cultivators would only be throwing their lives away. Wang Daoyuan closed the formation in the courtyard and returned to the earth fire room to cultivate. There was still half a month before the auction. Before he dealt with old Master Huang, he had to raise his strength as much as possible. In particular, the nurturing of the artifact spirit could not be neglected. Half a month passed quickly. He left his house and walked towards the city center. The big auction was held at the Seven Stars Auction House in the center of the market, and the power behind it was the Seven Stars Chamber of Commerce. The Seven Star Chamber of Commerce was originally a large force. Although it couldn't be compared to the Imperial Regency and the Jadeite Sword Sect, its strength could still be ranked in the top 5. After the Imperial Regency was overthrown, the Seven Stars Alliance and Blood Shark stood side by side. The Seven Stars Chamber of Commerce could only survive in the cracks, and their business deteriorated. He had no choice but to reach an agreement with the two families. The Seven Star Chamber of Commerce allowed the two families to invest in some of their businesses. Since Rare Treasure Island was the balance point between the two forces, the Seven Stars Auction House naturally had shares of the two forces. When Wang Daoyuan arrived at the entrance of the Seven Stars Auction House, two peak stage golden core cultivators cupped their fists and invited him in. As soon as he entered the door, a young female Foundation establishment cultivator walked over and bowed. Greetings, Senior. Please follow me. After this bow, Wang Daoyuan's qi and blood became a little unstable. He sighed in his heart. The Seven Stars Chamber of Commerce was really inhumane. They didn't even give a complete set of clothes for such a big business. If the weather was cold, she would freeze to death. He originally wanted to save her from the fire pit, but after thinking about it, he didn't have the guts. He could only look at this female cultivator helplessly, but he was powerless. He followed the female cultivator to the second floor of the auction house. All the auctions had the same layout. The first floor had a large number of seats, but not all of them were golden core cultivators. Early-stage Yuanying cultivators also sat on the first floor. Wang Daoyuan's mid-stage Yuanying cultivation was barely qualified to sit in the private rooms on the second floor. When he arrived on the second floor, some of the private rooms were already occupied by late-stage Yuanying cultivators. After waiting for half an hour, late-stage Yuanying cultivators came one after another. Finally, a peak-stage Yuanying cultivator came. He was no stranger to this person. It was old Master Huang. This person's status on Rare Treasure Island was not low. Since he came in, the surrounding cultivators took the initiative to greet him. After he sat down in a private room, he scanned the surroundings with his spiritual sense. Then his spiritual sense locked onto Wang Daoyuan and he sent a mocking voice transmission. You really came for this big auction. What good things can a rogue cultivator like you get in this kind of auction? You will only lose your life here. Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to pay attention to him. He now had close to 400,000 high-grade spirit stones in his hands. It was not a problem to bid for some 5th-grade high-grade spirit objects or even 6th-grade spirit objects. When old Master Huang, a peak-stage Yuanying cultivator, arrived, the auction began. A purple-clothed mid-stage Yuanying female cultivator walked to the auction stage at the center of the first floor. Wang Daoyuan sighed in his heart. This 7-star chamber of commerce is so crazy that even Yuanying cultivators are being abused like this. A Yuanying female cultivator was more than enough to be a soul formation cultivator's Dao companion. Who would have thought that she would still be naked here? Wang Daoyuan was fine, but the peak stage golden core cultivators and early stage Yuanying cultivators on the first floor were already head over heels for her. The Yuanying female cultivator said, "I am Ziyan. Greetings, Daoyu. Today I am honored to host this once-in-a-century auction. Thank you, Daoyu, for coming here." Her voice was like the sound of nature, and all the cultivators present were intoxicated. The 7-star Chamber of Commerce really knew how to do business. With just this auctioneer, wouldn't they spend tens of thousands of high-grade spirit stones during the auction? Then a maid walked to the front of the auction stage with a jade box in her hand. Ziyan took the jade box and placed it on the stage. As soon as the jade box was opened, a fragrant smell wafted out. Inside the jade box was a fruit that looked like a baby. This fruit was about 5 inches tall and looked like white jade. Its aura and appearance were similar to the nascent formation fruit, but there were also obvious differences. The nascent formation fruit was only 1 inch tall, but this fruit was 5 inches tall. Moreover, the nascent formation fruit was a mid-grade 5th grade spirit fruit, but this spirit fruit had already reached the limit of high-grade 5th grade and was only a step away from the 6th grade. Ziyan smiled, and the cultivators on the first floor also laughed foolishly. After a few breaths, Wang Daoyuan's smile disappeared and he looked at the cultivators below with disdain. What a bunch of ignorant people. What are they laughing foolishly for? I believe that many cultivators recognize this item. This is the nascent formation fruit, but it's not completely the same. The 5-inch nascent formation fruit is called the nascent replenishing fruit. It is produced when the nascent formation fruit tree is severely damaged and unable to recover. This nascent replenishing fruit also has a core. In a suitable environment, it can grow into a new nascent formation fruit tree. A single tree can produce at most 3 nascent replenishing fruits, and in most cases only 1 or 2. This fruit also has the same effect as the nascent formation fruit, but it's not limited to that. As cultivators of our generation, it's hard to avoid fighting with others, and getting injured is also unavoidable. Yuanying cultivators' Yuanying is still too weak and can easily be implicated, leaving behind hidden injuries. Furthermore, mistakes in cultivation, poisoning, taking too many medicinal pills, and so on can cause damage to the Yuanying. Yuanying's hidden injuries will affect one's cultivation, especially when making a breakthrough. It's easier to encounter a bottleneck. Many Yuanying cultivators are unable to break through their bottlenecks and can only slowly pass away. This nascent replenishing fruit can heal all of the Yuanying's hidden injuries and can also increase one's Yuanying's potential. If one takes a nascent replenishing fruit when making a breakthrough, it can greatly increase one's chances of breaking through. Even if a peak Yuanying cultivator breaks through to the deity transformation stage, the nascent replenishing fruit will increase one's chances of success by 10%. The starting price is 100,000 high-grade spirit stones, and each increment must be no less than 5,000. In large-scale auctions, the first item was usually a good start. Who would have thought that the first item would be a rare treasure like the nascent formation fruit? What kind of treasure would the finale be? Wang Daoyuan didn't have much hope for this item. Ordinary nascent formation fruits cost around 30,000 high-grade spirit stones. This nascent replenishing fruit size alone was worth 10 nascent formation fruits. Coupled with its special effects, it definitely wouldn't be worth 400,000 high-grade spirit stones. Chapter 789. In every centennial auction, the inside information would not be revealed to rogue cultivators. Wang Daoyuan had just arrived at Rare Treasures Island, so he did not have time to ask around for any gossip. He also did not know what good things would appear later on in the auction. However, since the first treasure was the nascent replenishing fruit, no one would be surprised if any other spiritual items appeared later on. As soon as Ziyan finished speaking, many cultivators began to bid. Of course, these cultivators were all from the private rooms on the second floor. Very few cultivators on the first floor could take out 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Master Huang was naturally among them and he was the first to bid. 150,000. His words stunned cultivators like Wang Daoyuan who didn't have much of a backer. Those who dared to continue bidding with him were only cultivators from the major factions. Among them, Wang Daoyuan also saw a few familiar faces from the Seven Stars Heavenly Palace. For example, True Lord Rampaging Sea of Blood Shark and True Lord Lifeless of the Alioth Sword Sect were also here. Back then Wang Daoyuan could not resist them, but now it was hard to say. Even if they had divine abilities, they might not be a match for Wang Daoyuan. If they did not have divine abilities, they would just be casually killed. The two of them were naturally not afraid of Master Huang, and True Lord Rampaging Sea directly said, 200,000. True Lord Lifeless followed. 250,000. They increased the price by 50,000 each time, and the others did not have the courage to participate at all. Thus, the auction became a battle between Master Huang and the cultivators from the various great powers. Master Huang was unwilling to let go of the auction. In the end, he won the nascent replenishing fruit at the price of 550,000 spirit stones. Although the nascent replenishing fruit was extremely valuable, it was not to the point where it was necessary. The value of this fruit was to repair Yuanying's internal injuries and to cultivate the fruit into a nascent fruit tree. It did not directly increase the success rate of breaking through to the soul formation realm. Instead, it was because the nascent replenishing fruit healed Yuanying's internal injuries and increased Yuanying's potential. When breaking through to the soul formation realm, the nascent replenishing fruit only played an auxiliary role. Unless the Yuanying was seriously injured, it would not affect the breakthrough to the soul formation realm without this fruit. However, just this nascent replenishing fruit and no other spiritual items were absolutely not enough. The value of the core was not as high as he had imagined. Cultivating a nascent soul fruit tree was not a simple matter. It would take a few thousand years and a huge amount of resources would be invested during this period. There would be no returns, and if they were not careful, all their previous efforts would be wasted. Although the Huang family's influence wasn't small, it wasn't likely that they could compare to the Seven Stars Alliance and Blood Shark. He fought so hard for this item. Could it be that Yuanying had a serious internal injury that would affect her breakthrough if she did not recover? If that was the case, Wang Daoyuan would have more confidence in dealing with him. The remaining auction items were more ordinary. They were all elixirs, magic tools, and rare refining materials. They were far inferior to the nascent replenishing fruit. However, these things were actually the most expensive. The Seven-Star Chamber of Commerce's honey trap was a great success. With just a few words, the cultivators on the first floor desperately fought for these things. After more than 10 magic treasures, yet another female Zifu disciple walked up with a metallic book in her hands. Seeing that it was a book-type treasure, everyone's interest was immediately piqued. The Seven-Star Chamber of Commerce had auctioned many book-type treasures, including cultivation techniques, magic techniques, secret techniques, pill refinement inheritances, and so on. Ziyan took the book and smiled. Everyone, Dao, you should know that the book-type treasures auctioned by the Seven-Star Chamber of Commerce are all extraordinary. This treasure is also the same. It isn't that it is precious, but that we are unable to determine its value. At this time, an early Yuanying cultivator asked, "Oh? There is something that the Seven-Star Chamber of Commerce cannot understand?" Ziyan took advantage of this opportunity to reply, "Dao Yu is too kind. There are many good things left behind in the ancient era. It is normal for there to be things that we cannot understand. We are unable to determine the value of this book. It is not because it is difficult to understand, but because we do not recognize the words on it. Our Chamber of Commerce also has many elders who like to study all kinds of languages. They all feel that there is a clear connection between these words and the words of the Xianxia community, but there is also a large difference. Those elders have studied it for a long time, but they have only been able to deduce the meaning of a few words. Unfortunately, they are unable to connect them together. Other than the words, there are also many pictures. It is just that there are many special words in these pictures that we are unable to recognize, so we are unable to accurately determine the contents of the pictures. Our Seven-Star Chamber of Commerce has never cheated. Since we are unable to determine the value of this golden book, we will use the price of the materials as the starting price. This golden book starting price is 100 high-grade spirit stones. For Dao Yu, you can raise the price as much as you want. After saying this, she opened the first page of the book for everyone to see. The cultivators all shook their heads. They were unable to recognize the words on the book. As for Wang Daoyuan, he was greatly shaken. The words on the book were clearly the traditional characters of his previous life. In his previous life he learned from his master, so he could not recognize the simplified Chinese characters as well as the traditional Chinese characters. On the second page were the words, Kunlun Idler's Travels in the Sea of Seven Stars. Previously in the Ascension Valley he saw many engravings left by predecessors. It was certain that in the world of his previous life, cultivators would eventually ascend to this world. However, those engravings were severely damaged, so he was unable to obtain complete information. It seemed that this book should have been left behind by an ascendant. Although he had never heard of the name of the Kunlun Idler, to be able to ascend to this place his cultivation was at least at the peak of the soul formation realm. Naturally, something left behind by such a senior was very valuable. Because they were unable to recognize it, the cultivators of the various forces were naturally not interested. On the contrary, the rogue cultivators on the first floor were the first to start bidding. They used this golden book as a means to win the favor of the beauty. Soon, the price of this golden book was called to 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan naturally would not let go of this golden book. The value of something left behind by a cultivator at the peak of the soul formation realm was needless to say. He directly called out, 11,000 high-grade spirit stones. At that moment, Old Master Huang laughed disdainfully. I thought you were someone important. I didn't expect you to be so useless. Wang Daoyuan was worried that someone would suspect him of recognizing the words on the golden book. Old Master Huang's belittling words actually helped him cover up. He immediately retorted, I'm not even 500 years old. Among the Yuanian cultivators I'm still considered young. Young people are naturally different from old people like you. I'm willing to spend spirit stones to win the beauty's smile. What can you do about it? Old Master Huang was choked speechless. He could only coldly snort. He directly raised the price by 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. Those participating in the bidding were all early Yuanian cultivators. Naturally, they did not dare to compete with him in terms of wealth. After calling out the price 3 times, Ziyan smiled and said, Congratulations, Dao. You've won this golden book. Wang Daoyuan also smiled and returned the greeting. This made the cultivators on the first floor extremely envious. After the golden book was won, the value of the treasures in the auction skyrocketed. A female Violet Palace realm cultivator carried a box made of spiritual wood to the front of the auction stage. Ziyan opened the box and took out a piece of folded beast skin. This is a treasure map. My 7-star Chamber of Commerce's elder deduces that the place recorded on the map should be the Setting Sun Abyss. Some young Dao, you might not know much about the Setting Sun Abyss. Legend has it that in ancient times, there was a golden crow that fell at the border between the northern part of the Sea of 7 Stars and the Endless Ice Sea. Furthermore, the Setting Sun Abyss just so happened to have a yin vein. It formed a treasured land where yin and yang intersected. It gave birth to countless natural treasures. Dao, you all know that to break through to the soul formation stage, one would need a 6th-grade yin and yang spirit item. In the Qixing Sea of Zhou Xian community, these 2 types of spirit items were rare. The Setting Sun Abyss just so happened to have these 2 types of items. However, the Setting Sun Abyss was extremely dangerous. Many soul formation cultivators had never returned. If one had a treasure map, entering the Setting Sun Abyss would be even safer. There was no need to say anything more about the value of this treasure map. The starting price is 50,000 high-grade spirit stones. Each bid must be at least 1,000 spirit stones higher. Chapter 790. Wang Daoyuan had heard of the Setting Sun Abyss before. Back then, the 10,000 corpse spiritual master had escaped and was forced into a dangerous place. That dangerous place was the Setting Sun Abyss. In the end, he escaped through a teleportation formation and headed west. Wang Daoyuan would have to go there sooner or later. Back then, the 10,000 corpse spiritual master had rushed in recklessly, but he had still been able to find the teleportation formation and escape. He was a Yuanian cultivator and knew the approximate location of the teleportation formation. What problem could there be? Of course, it would be best if he could get the treasure map. With the treasure map guiding him, it would be easier to find treasures. That was in the sea. Even soul formation cultivators would find it difficult to find spiritual items. Blackie and the soul-chasing bee's ability to find spiritual items was useless in the sea. Moreover, the golden crow had fallen from the setting sun abyss. With the treasure map he might be able to find spiritual items related to the golden crow. The scarlet-feathered crow in the spirit pearls space had already reached the peak of high-grade tier 4. If he could get a spiritual item related to the golden crow, he might be able to make the scarlet-feathered crow's bloodline purer and advance. After reaching tier 5, a half-divine beast's strength would increase greatly. At that time the scarlet-feathered crow would also be a great help. As soon as Ziyan finished speaking, Master Huang said, 60,000. This time there were quite a few people competing with him. The rogue cultivators and cultivators from small factions on the second floor all made bids. The bidding price of this treasure map was quickly raised to 150,000. The Alioth Sword Sect and Blood Shark didn't make a bid. Wang Daoyuan understood that the two sects must have seen the treasure map beforehand and even left a copy. There was no need to make a bid now. Master Huang was very active in bidding. The 7-Star Business Alliance most likely didn't inform him. Wang Daoyuan naturally didn't want to give up on the treasure map. He directly shouted, 180,000. Once that was said, no one made a bid. What was in the treasure map was still unknown. It was very likely that it had no value. Buying it would mean taking a great risk. 150,000 high-grade spirit stones was the limit for most cultivators. However, Wang Daoyuan had no choice. He probably couldn't afford the rest of the items. If they missed out on this treasure map, they would have wasted their trip to this auction. Old Master Huang also sneered, "Thank you, little friend, for snatching such a good thing for me." This meant that he wanted to snatch the item away, but Wang Daoyuan didn't take it seriously. He was also thinking about Old Master Huang's soul-replenishing fruit. They had the ambition and potential to advance further. The only thing they lacked was a foundation. If they could obtain the inheritance of the Ziwei Palace, their foundation would be replenished. As expected, even though they knew the possibility of this being a scam was very high, there were still people who were willing to jump into this trap. As soon as Ziyan finished speaking, Master Huang hurriedly bid, 100,000. There were also a few late-stage Yuanying cultivators who also hurriedly bid. There was also a familiar person among the bidders. It was the female shopkeeper of the Scarlet Flame sect. The Scarlet Flame sect had a few peak-stage Yuanying cultivators. Could be said that it was the strongest sect under the major factions. The Alioth Sword sect, the Tianji Palace, the Tianshu sect, and Blood Shark only casually bid twice and didn't participate in the competition. It was obvious that this was a trap set up by these 4 factions. Even the other factions of the 7 Stars Alliance were just part of the scheme. Wang Daoyuan also shouted, 200,000. Soon Master Huang bid again. 250,000. He sighed softly and pretended to be a little regretful. Master Huang, on the other hand, let out a proud laugh. Next, Wang Daoyuan watched as these people competed to jump into the trap as an outsider. This scam was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only could they make a killing, but they could also weaken those factions that were a threat. They had to put all their effort into this lousy sword to prevent them from developing too quickly and threatening the position of the person who set this up. The Huang family and the cultivators of the 7 Stars Alliance desperately bid. In the end, the female shopkeeper of the Scarlet Flame sect bought the long sword for a sky-high price of 970,000 high-grade spirit stones. A low-grade 6th-tier longsword wouldn't exceed 200,000 high-grade spirit stones at most. Now it had been sold for nearly 1,000,000 high-grade spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan was very envious. He even wanted to make a copy of the origin returning sword painting and sell it. Now that the long sword had an owner, the next auction item was brought up. This was a heavily damaged puppet that had no value in repairing. Wang Daoyuan recognized this puppet at a glance. It was the first puppet he encountered after entering the Ziwei Palace. Ziyan continued, "This puppet also came from the Ziwei Palace. It's one of the puppets guarding the Ziwei Palace. When this puppet was complete, it was a high-grade 5th-tier spirit stone and very close to a low-grade 6th-tier spirit stone." The 7 late-stage Yuanying cultivators who entered the Ziwei Palace worked together and fought for more than 2 hours before defeating it. True Lord Traversing Sea and True Lord Lifeless, who participated in the battle, were also here. Whether it's true or not, we'll know after asking. True Lord Lifeless said, Ziyan Daoyu's words are true. I left a sword mark on the puppet's back. True Lord Traversing Sea also smiled. This puppet was refined from 6th-tier materials, and its refining method is far superior to the Imperial Regency's. Hearing the two's words, the others were even more convinced. With them echoing each other, Wang Daoyuan saw the problem. No matter how he looked at it, this puppet seemed to be throwing out bait to catch him. They should also know that he had a puppet inheritance, so this puppet could be used as a reference. For someone who wanted to refine a puppet, it was very attractive. Chapter 791. Wang Daoyuan already had a sword puppet which was far more valuable than an ordinary puppet. Although the refining method wasn't very good, it was enough as a reference. As for this puppet, even if it didn't have any tricks up its sleeve, it wasn't worth spending a lot of money on it. Ziyan continued. Although this puppet is heavily damaged, it's not impossible to repair. After it's repaired, although its strength won't be as strong as a soul formation cultivator, it'll be far stronger than a peak Yuanyin cultivator. For cultivators who practice the art of puppetry with this puppet, they'll be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. These words were very tempting, but none of the loose cultivators or small factions made a bid. Refining a puppet wasn't something a small faction could do, let alone a loose cultivator. Not to mention other things, just the special materials needed to refine the puppet's core were something small factions couldn't find. Only mid-tier factions and above had some hope. Only the Seven Stars Alliance, a few of the weaker factions and Blood Shark's True Lord Rampaging Sea, participated in the bidding. The Imperial Regency had inherited the art of puppetry, so if they took it back they had a good chance of repairing it. The puppets in Ziwei Palace must be extraordinary in some way. It was also very valuable to improve their own puppetry techniques. The small factions naturally couldn't compete with the Seven Stars Alliance. So True Lord Rampaging Sea bought the puppet for 600,000 high-grade spirit stones. Ziyan continued, the puppet already has an owner. Next up is the last treasure of this auction. She clapped her hands and a female cultivator quickly came over with a jade box. Ziyan took the jade box and gently opened it, and a dense dragon chi spread out. Inside the jade box was a black egg about 5 inches in diameter. There were faint golden patterns on it. These patterns were extremely complicated and seemed to contain some kind of power similar to the laws. Moreover, it was clearly much stronger than the power of laws. The power contained within was also very complex, as if there was more than one kind of power. What Wang Daoyuan could analyze was only a kind of power that was similar to the law of water. Without a doubt, this was a flood dragon egg. Furthermore, the concentration of his bloodline was extremely high. His parents' cultivation was definitely not low either. In a private room next to Wang Daoyuan, a late-stage Yuanyin cultivator exclaimed, the egg of a 6th-grade deep-sea ink flood dragon. If it hatches, it will become a 6th-grade sect-guarding spiritual beast in the future. Ziyan smiled and said, Daoyu is right. This is indeed the egg of a deep-sea inky flood dragon. It was found by a late-stage Yuanyin Daoyu at the bottom of the Sea of Seven Stars, a million li south of the Sea of Seven Stars. Daoyu, please don't worry. This distance is far enough, and the flood dragons won't come looking for trouble. After being appraised by our 7-star Chamber of Commerce's elders, the life force contained in this flood dragon's egg is very strong and can definitely be hatched. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the deep-sea inky flood dragon, as it's a true semi-divine beast. In the ancient times, the situation of the deep-sea dark flood dragon breaking through to the 7th level and becoming a divine transformation realm true dragon appeared many times. Even a rank 6 flood dragon had a lifespan of 20 to 30,000 years. As long as it can be nurtured, it will be able to guard the family and the sect for more than 20,000 years. Soul formation cultivators who can defeat a rank 6 flood dragon are also very rare. A human needs extremely high talent and all kinds of spiritual items to break through to the soul formation stage. Flood dragons are different. As long as there is enough spirit chi, they can slowly grow. They don't need any special spiritual items to break through to the next level. There was nothing wrong with what he said, but it was more like nonsense. A spirit beast with the bloodline of a divine beast didn't need any spiritual items to grow, but it also needed a very long time. Take the deep-sea ink flood dragon for example. Without a lot of spiritual items, It would take at least 10 to 20,000 years to grow to the 6th level. If he wanted it to grow quickly, he would need a lot of spiritual items. Normal forces couldn't afford it at all. Wang Daoyuan had no problem raising a flood dragon with the space in his spiritual orb, but he couldn't afford it. However, he couldn't afford the flood dragon. As the final treasure, it would cost at least 1,000,000 spirit stones. Besides, even if he could get it, it would be very troublesome. After all, the Xianxia Xiaoxian community was mainly based on the sea. The demon beasts there were much more powerful than those in Beiyuan. The flood dragons were the overlords of the sea. If the flood dragon egg was sold, it would be easy to be attacked by the flood dragons. The auctioneer said that he got it in the outer sea. Who knew the details? He might be surrounded by the flood dragons at any time. Zhou Xian continued. The starting price of this flood dragon egg is 300,000 high-grade spirit stones. Each increment must be no less than 10,000. The starting price was enough to make most of the cultivators despair. Only those cultivators with powerful backgrounds could afford to buy this item. Even so, the competition was very fierce. The price soon exceeded 500,000 high-grade spirit stones. Master Huang didn't dare to bid again after a few times. In the end, Perfected Lord Raging Sea bought the flood dragon egg for 1,300,000 high-grade spirit stones. Zhou Xian bowed to everyone and said, "Thank you, Dao. The auction is over." Then one by one the Yuanying cultivators delivered the treasures to the buyers. 2 Yuanying cultivators also came to Wang Daoyuan's box. They brought the Kunlun Idler's travel book on the Sea of 7 Stars and the treasure map of the setting sun abyss. He took out 191,000 high-grade spirit stones and gave them to the 2 Yuanying cultivators. After the 2 checked the spirit stones, they gave the treasures to him. Wang Daoyuan put the treasures in the space of his spirit pearl and walked out. Master Huang sent him a mocking sound transmission. "Brat, you're in such a hurry to leave?" He didn't want to be outdone. "No hurry. I'll leave when you eat the nascent replenishing fruit. If you don't eat it, I don't care. You only have 300 years to live. I still have 1,000 years to live. Let's wait and see." After saying that, he left the auction house and returned to his small courtyard. He couldn't leave immediately. After all, if he bought the travel book, people might suspect that he knew the words in it. If he left in such a hurry, there would be even more people who would suspect him. There might even be busybodies who would try to kill him on the way. It was already very difficult to deal with Master Huang. If a few peak-level Yuanying cultivators came, he would really die. It was better to stay in his small courtyard for a while. Moreover, he still had many things to do. He already had some progress on improving his life-bound Dharma artifact. He still had to complete it as soon as possible. If he could improve his life-bound Dharma artifact, his strength would increase even further. After returning to his small courtyard, he modified the defensive array formation. After all, it had been more than 20 years since he last modified it. The array formation should have been figured out long ago. Those people might use the formation breaking pearl again. After he finished modifying it, he returned to the earth fire room and began to refine his Dharma artifact. Before he started refining his life-bound Dharma artifact, he still had to refine it into a normal Dharma artifact to see its effects. In the space of his spirit pearl, his clone checked the treasure map and the travel book. There was nothing wrong with the treasure map. The environment around the setting sun abyss was similar to what was described in the beast skin book given by Uncle Zhong. The main content of the treasure map was the underwater part. There were a few important points marked on the map, and it was also written that it produced insights. There were also places that produced rank 6 yin-yang spiritual items. Unfortunately, they were all in the deep sea. With Wang Daoyuan's current strength, he could go down, but he couldn't stay for too long. This was an essential item for breaking through to rank 6. Even if it was difficult, he had to try. The rank 6 yin-yang spiritual items in other places were all monopolized by the 7 Stars Alliance, Blood Shark and Mystic Island. Even the middle and lower level forces of the 7 Stars Alliance couldn't get their hands on them, let alone an outsider like him. Without the help of rank 6 yin-yang spiritual items, he could only rely on himself to absorb the yin-yang qi to break through to the soul formation stage. The sun at noon and the moonlight of a full moon could have the same effect. If he absorbed the yin-yang qi from the sun and moon every day, he might be able to break through to the soul formation stage in 1,000 or 800 years. Not many cultivators could afford such a long time. The yin-yang qi produced by the true fire of red yang and the gui water death flames was still too low. It wouldn't be enough to break through to the soul formation stage in 1,000 or 800 years. Chapter 792. His clone also checked that travel book. According to it, this Kunlun wanderer was taken in as a disciple by a cultivator when he was young. He didn't have any brilliant inheritance, but he was extremely talented. In the end, he had some achievements and ascended to this world. The time of his ascension should be in the middle of the Tang dynasty. After ascending to this world, the first place he came to was the Ascension Valley in the southern wasteland of Beiyuan Zhou Xian. The book didn't mention the situation of the decimating heaven abyss, nor did it mention the demons. From the looks of it, this book should have been written before the demons invaded. The flow of time in this world was indeed very different from the world of his previous life. After the Kunlun wanderer ascended, he became the target of many forces. However, he was an itinerant cultivator since young and never joined any forces. Thus, he rejected all recruitment and traveled everywhere. Later, he cultivated to the Mahayana realm and traveled to the Sea of Seven Stars. The book had records of the various islands in the Sea of Seven Stars, but it didn't mention the Sunset Abyss. It seemed that the Sunset Abyss was formed after the Kunlun wanderer traveled here. Tens of thousands of years had passed. The islands recorded in the book were very different from the islands now. After all, many islands in the sea were constantly changing. For example, the commonly seen coral islands and volcanic islands would constantly grow with the growth of corals and volcanic eruptions. The book had very detailed descriptions of the common spiritual objects in the Sea of Seven Stars. For example, the blood corals around the rare treasure island and the star-patterned sea cucumber. Other than that, the book also mentioned the Blue Dragon ruins. The Kunlun wanderer didn't mention how far the Blue Dragon ruins was from the Sea of Seven Stars. He only said that it was in the east. There were also some descriptions of the terrain and products there. For example, there were a few places that produced extremely valuable spiritual plants like the soul-nurturing wood. The area of the island there was not smaller than the Sea of Seven Stars. However, the environment was extremely harsh and not suitable for low-level cultivators to survive. As a result, it was abandoned. He guessed that the Blue Dragon ruins also had a glorious cultivation civilization many years ago. However, for some reason it was completely destroyed. The content of the book was very valuable to Wang Daoyuan. In the future, he planned to dig out a sea in the space of the Spirit Pearl and raise some seafood. At the very least, this book introduced the living habits of a lot of seafood. It would be more convenient to raise them in the future. After understanding the contents of the book, he continued to forge magic tools. Although there were people constantly coming to the small courtyard to scout the area, they couldn't easily enter since they couldn't figure out the situation of the defensive formation in a short time. The Huang family couldn't cover the sky with one hand in this market square, so they didn't dare to do anything openly. Every few months, Wang Daoyuan would adjust the small courtyard's defensive array formation so that the people sent by Old Master Huang would continue to be at a loss. He released the sword puppet to guard the small courtyard, while his Yuanying entered the space of the spiritual pearl to deduce the method of refining. After staying in this small courtyard for 3 years, he finally managed to deduce the new natal magic weapon. At the same time, he also refined 5 magic tools to test their power. This was an ordinary Dharma artifact and there were no problems with its function. It was just that the materials used were ordinary and could not be combined together like a natal dharmic artifact. However, as long as the tool pattern could be connected, there would be no problem. There was no problem in refining ordinary magic tools, so he could begin to refine his natal magic tool. There was no need to change the other 4 magic tools except for the White Tiger Blade. The 5 natal magic tools were combined with the White Tiger Blade as the core, and finally merged into the Yinglong Demon Slaying Sword. It also had to be combined with the returning Origin Sword Intent. The tool pattern had changed a lot, and in order to create the tool pattern inside, he had to refine it again. There was no need to use the Heaven Demon Metal for the new magic tool, so he directly used a piece of level 5 Tai Divine Metal to forge the White Tiger Blade. The original White Tiger Blade was refined using the smelting method, and all of its essence was merged into the new magic tool. After the magic tool was formed, there was no more white tiger carving. The sword head, hilt, and nose were as simple as the returning Origin Sword. There were only 2 white tiger patterns on both sides of the sword body. After forging the sword embryo, he put the 5 natal magic tools into the space of the spiritual pearl. After erasing the original tool patterns, he used his divine sense to create new tool patterns. Yuanying couldn't cultivate alone and he couldn't personally forge magic tools, but it wasn't a problem for him to use his divine sense to create tool patterns. Yuanying used up too much of his divine sense, so he returned to his body and circulated his cultivation technique to recover. After recovering, he entered the space of the spiritual pearl. With the time acceleration, it took him less than a month to refine all 5 natal magic tools. He tried to combine the 5 magic tools in the space of the spiritual pearl, and the 5 magic tools turned into 5 balls of light. The 5 balls of light merged with each other and finally turned into a bright yellow ball of light, which was emitting Yinglong's aura. Soon the light dissipated and a bright yellow long sword appeared out of thin air. On the long sword there was a carving of Yinglong. The sword's nose was the dragon's tail, the hilt was half of the dragon's body, the sword drum was Yinglong's wings, and the remaining half of the dragon's body and head were wrapped around the sword. At this moment, the aura of Yinglong's demon-slaying sword was no weaker than the returning origin sword. Of course, there was still a big gap in terms of material. After all, the returning origin sword was made of level 6 mixed essence iron, and it was personally forged by the supreme divinity Xianxia. Yinglong's demon-slaying sword was only a level 5 middle magic tool, and it was far from a level 6 upper magic tool. He summoned Yinglong from between the Yuanying's eyebrows and merged it into the sword. Yinglong's body had 5 weapon spirit embryos, and they all merged into the sword together. The Yinglong pattern on the sword seemed to come to life, and it emitted bursts of dragon's power. The spirit beasts in the space of the spiritual pearl panicked. Yun-Yi directly dived into the bottom of the pond, not daring to show her head. Even the red-feathered crow who had been lying on the blood-fire fusang tree was trembling in fear. Wang Daoyuan had never possessed such powerful strength before. If he used all his strength, it would not be a problem for him to kill the Yuanying at the peak. However, maintaining this state consumed a lot of spiritual power and divine sense. After all, he had integrated most of his strength into the sword, and he could only hold on for a dozen breaths of time. It seemed that this Yinglong's demon-slaying sword could not be used casually. It could only be used as a trump card. Yinglong's demon-slaying sword had been completed, and his strength had improved a lot. It was time to find trouble with Master Huang. Previously, he had speculated that Master Huang's Yuanying might have serious internal injuries, so it was better to deal with him as soon as possible. Otherwise, if he ate the nascent replenishing fruit and healed his internal injuries, it would be even more difficult to deal with him. Although Wang Daoyuan believed in the power of Yinglong's demon-slaying sword, Master Huang's cultivation at the peak of the Yuanying was not to be trifled with. To kill an enemy above one's level, one had to rely on one's strongest means to kill the opponent. This matter was not guaranteed. Once the opponent had some unique skill that could block his strongest means, it would be completely over. It was better to act as soon as possible before he recovered. After packing up his things, he left the small courtyard as if nothing had happened and went to the south gate of the market. There were already people watching the small courtyard. As soon as he left the small courtyard, a peak golden core cultivator took out a jade talisman to send a message. When he arrived at the south gate, he took out a token, opened the array formation on the gate and walked out. A mid-Yuanying cultivator walked over and cupped his hands. Wu Dai, long time no see. May I know why you left the city this time? He did not know this person, but his goal was obvious. He was helping Master Huang stall for time. If Wang Daoyuan wanted to deal with Master Huang, he had to expose his sword cultivation methods. He could not be too close to the market. Otherwise, he would be surrounded as soon as he used his sword cultivation methods. He could not be bothered with this person. He only said coldly, "Daoyu, it's best if you don't meddle in other people's business. Who knows if there will be rain under the clouds? Don't get yourself into trouble." Then his body emitted intense spirit power fluctuations as if he was about to attack at any time. How strong could a gatekeeper be? The mid-Yuanying cultivator knew that he was no match for him and did not dare to stop him. After Wang Daoyuan left the city gate, he took out a grade 5 flying boat and headed south. At this moment, Master Huang received the message in the Huang family's mansion. He smiled sinisterly. "Jinshan, I will avenge you today." Chapter 793. Wang Daoyuan rowed the flying boat all the way to the south. Soon he had flown more than 30,000 miles and arrived at the edge of the coral reef outside the rare treasure island. He looked back and saw that Old Master Huang had not followed him. Wang Daoyuan wanted to get rid of Old Master Huang completely and get the nascent replenishing fruit at the same time. Using the nascent replenishing fruit to form a nascent soul and increase the potential of Yuanying was much better than using it after forming a nascent soul. With this, he could immediately return to Beiyuan Zhou Xian and help Zhou Luan form her nascent soul. As for the Sunset Abyss and Azure Dragon ruins, he was not in a hurry. Finding a wife was more important. Since Old Master Huang was not here, he could not stay idle. There was no point in setting up a formation. Against a peak Yuanying cultivator, a 4th grade formation was negligible. He planned to use this time to find something like seafood. When he attacked later, he would have to expose his sword cultivation methods. There were often cultivators coming and going here. It was inevitable that other cultivators would see him. After killing Old Master Huang, he had to leave as soon as possible. Since he had time now, he naturally had to make good use of it. He kept the flying boat and went into the coral reef. He found a few coral trees that were more than a foot tall and cut them down together with the rocks attached to them. He placed them in the space of the spirit pearl. He dug a pit that was more than 10 acres in size at the edge of the spirit pearl and filled it with seawater. He placed the corals in the pit. This pit was mainly to raise star-patterned sea cucumbers. According to the records of the traveler in the Sea of 7 Stars, the star-patterned sea cucumbers' star power came from food. The power of the stars in the food was absorbed during the night. Therefore, the place where the star-patterned sea cucumbers were raised must be able to see starlight. There were 3 star cores in the space of the spirit pearl. He could make use of them. It was not easy to find 4th grade and 5th grade star-patterned sea cucumbers, but the lower grade ones were easy to find. He caught dozens of 2nd grade and 3rd grade sea cucumbers and placed them in the sea pond. There were many star-patterned sea cucumbers food in the seawater that was poured into the space of the spirit pearl. After doing all this, he returned to the surface of the sea. A few hundred miles north, a 5th grade flying boat was flying towards him. A white-bearded and white-haired cultivator stood at the bow of the ship with a ferocious smile on his face. This person was none other than Old Master Huang. As the flying boat got closer, Old Master Huang said coldly, "At least you know your place. You know that you can't escape, so you should just stay here and wait for death. The treasure map is still with you, right? For the sake of the treasure map, I can spare you some time." Wang Daoyuan didn't care. "Do you have the nourishing soul fruit with you? If you've already eaten it, I'll torture you. If you haven't eaten it and still left it at home, then I'll kill you and then trample the Huang family." His harsh words were so arrogant that Master Huang was enraged. "Ignorant child, what a big tone you have. The nascent replenishing fruit is on me. If you have the ability, come and take it. You killed my eldest son. If I don't tear you to pieces, I won't be able to vent my anger." When Yuanying cultivators broke through to the soul formation stage, the heavenly general lightning tribulation was not a big deal. The main thing was the inner demon tribulation. If an obsession was left in one's heart, it would be very difficult to survive the inner demon tribulation. It seemed like killing young Master Huang had a huge impact on Old Master Huang's state of mind. If he didn't kill him, Old Master Huang wouldn't dare to try to break through to the soul formation stage. The nascent replenishing fruit was most likely reserved for when he was preparing to break through. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was relieved. "Since the nascent replenishing fruit is still here, I'll give you a dignified death." Old Master Huang waved his hand, and a huge wave appeared on the surface of the sea, covering Wang Daoyuan. Seeing this huge wave, Wang Daoyuan's expression turned serious. His estimation of Old Master Huang's strength was still too low. There were many Dharma spells that could summon huge waves, but Old Master Huang was able to do it so easily. It was definitely not an ordinary Dharma spell. Wang Daoyuan felt intense fluctuations of the law of water from the huge wave. It should be a water-controlling divine ability. The strength of a peak Yuanying cultivator with divine abilities was not easy to estimate. He also used his divine ability and gathered all the spirit chi within a radius of 400 miles. Then a huge black tortoise shadow was formed. He used the black tortoise suppressing the sea to suppress the huge wave. The effect was not bad. The height of the wave was reduced by more than half. Wang Daoyuan flew in the air and was not affected at all. Old Master Huang snorted. "A domain-type divine ability? No wonder you're so arrogant. The huge wave arrived at Wang Daoyuan's feet and turned into a blue water dragon. The water dragon left the surface of the sea and attacked Wang Daoyuan with its tail. He controlled the black tortoise shadow and released a suppressive force to suppress the water dragon. Unfortunately, the black tortoise was not strong enough and was directly penetrated by the water dragon. Wang Daoyuan took out the black dragon halberd and scattered the water dragon. Old Master Huang released a wave of spiritual power into the water, and the water dragon turned into a water dragon again. A water-type cultivator with a water-controlling divine ability was invincible on the sea. Wang Daoyuan took out the sword puppet. Without needing him to control it, the sword puppet slashed out a few sword flares. The water dragon was hit by the 5 sword flares and turned into mist. The sea returned to calm. Old Master Huang's expression was serious. There's actually such a powerful sword cultivator puppet. No wonder you're so arrogant. Unfortunately, this puppet is not enough to defeat me. The sword puppet's strength was comparable to a late-stage Yuanying cultivators. In addition, sword cultivators had the advantage of speed. Although Old Master Huang said he did not care, he did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly put away the flying boat and flew toward the sea. He landed on the surface of the sea and kept making complicated hand seals. The surrounding sea became turbulent again. Dozens of water dragons flew from the sea and surrounded Wang Daoyuan. Old Master Huang was serious this time. It was already difficult for him to deal with 2 water dragons with just his divine abilities and spells, let alone dozens of water dragons. At this moment, the 5 elements natal dharma artifacts had merged into one. Yinglong's demon-slaying sword was ready to be used. Yinglong's mark and the prototype of the artifact spirit had also merged and could give Old Master Huang a fatal blow at any time. Then he took out the origin returning sword and used the sword shadow divine light technique. 10 sword shadows appeared instantly. Now the power of one sword shadow was half of the full power of the longsword. When the 10 sword shadows flew out, each sword shadow could replace one water dragon. When the sword shadows were used up, he continued to replenish them. The sword puppet also helped to share the pressure and blocked several water dragons. Seeing him use sword cultivator techniques, Old Master Huang's face was filled with joy. You are sword cultivator Zhou Ming? Who would have thought that such a great benefit would fall into my hands? The heavens are really protecting my Huang family. The water's spiritual energy fluctuation on his body became more intense. It was still condensing water dragons and attacking Wang Daoyuan. There were still too few sword shadows. The water dragons were getting closer and closer. Wang Daoyuan used the Big Dipper sword formation at the same time. 36 sword shadows went straight for Old Master Huang. He did not care and condensed another 10 water dragons to protect himself. 36 sword shadows formed a sword formation and completely covered Old Master Huang and the water dragons. In an instant, countless sword glows slashed out and cold light shot out in all directions. Wang Daoyuan used the sky-splitting sword teleportation, turning into a sword shadow and attacking Old Master Huang. The water dragons smashed onto the sword shadows, causing Wang Daoyuan's organs to rupture and he spat out blood. The sword shadows were also a little unstable, but he had no intention of retreating. If this attack did not succeed, he would definitely die. After a while, the cold light dissipated and the 36 sword shadows collapsed. Old Master Huang was still surrounded by 5 water dragons. Seeing Wang Daoyuan attack, he revealed a disdainful smile. He took out a small black jade cauldron. After injecting spiritual energy, the small cauldron instantly grew to more than 6 meters tall. The other water dragons also followed closely behind Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan dispersed the sword shadows. Countless sword chi condensed into the demon-slaying sword. The sword slashed onto the black jade cauldron, causing a loud explosion. The black jade cauldron was sent flying. Wang Daoyuan suffered from the backlash and spat out a large mouthful of blood. The origin returning sword also flew out of his hand. Old Master Huang was not injured at all. The 5 water dragons were still protecting him. He took out a blue sword and was about to kill Wang Daoyuan. At this moment, a bright yellow sword appeared out of nowhere. A dazzling bright yellow light flashed, and the sword appeared behind Old Master Huang. The dozens of water dragons nearby instantly collapsed. Then his body turned into a bloody mist, dyeing the surrounding seawater red. Wang Daoyuan coughed out a large mouthful of blood. Yinglong is the first person to be killed by the demon-slaying sword. This is a decent death. Chapter 794. He was attacked several times by the water dragon and clashed with a peak Yuanying cultivator. If his body wasn't strong enough, he would have died. Even so, his injuries weren't light. Fortunately, the Yuanying cultivators weren't affected too much. He put Yinglong's demon-slaying sword into his body and split it into 5 Dharma artifacts. He controlled the Azure Dragon Pearl and used the Azure Dragon Restoration technique to heal his internal injuries. Under the nourishment of life energy, his internal injuries healed. He would need 10 days to half a month to fully recover. Liao Yang put away the Dharma artifacts and universe ring left behind by Old Master Huang. He controlled the flying ship and flew towards the west. After he flew far away, a cultivator's head popped out from the coral reef. The cultivator took out a jade talisman and sent a message. 10 minutes later, True Lord Rampant Sea received a message in a shop in the market of Rare Treasure Island. He was overjoyed when he saw it. Just as he was about to laugh, he seemed to have thought of something and quickly pretended that nothing had happened. He thought to himself, now only the Imperial Regency knows that Wu Tuan is Zhou Ming. This must not be leaked. As long as I can take him down, I'll be able to obtain the Ziwei Palace's artifact forging, puppet technique, and sword cultivation inheritance. He's already able to kill peak Yuanying cultivators. It seems like I need to report this to the sect master. While he's heavily injured, I'll gather experts to attack him. He walked out of his room and went to a stone room under the shop. There was a large communication array here. When Wang Daoyuan and Old Master Huang were fighting, they didn't notice anyone else. However, their fight caused too much of a commotion. It was almost impossible for no one to notice. Once someone noticed, they would be hunted down. Moreover, the news of Old Master Huang's death could be hidden from others, but not from the Huang family. The Huang family still had a Xuejiao. This fellow's strength was definitely not below Old Master Huang's. Wang Daoyuan was heavily injured now. He didn't have the ability to fight another peak Yuanying cultivator. Within the space of the Spirit Pearl, the clone was looking through Old Master Huang's belongings. Perhaps he thought that Wang Daoyuan would try his best to escape and would need to chase after him for a long time, so he brought a large number of high-grade spirit stones with him. There were more than 200,000 pieces. The nascent replenishing fruit he got at the auction was also kept in a jade box in his universe ring. Wang Daoyuan was also relieved. With this thing he could return to Beiyuan Zhou Xian directly. There was also a Class 5 superior-grade flying boat in the interspatial ring. Wang Daoyuan's flying boat was only Class 5 inferior grade. After switching to the newly captured flying boat, the speed was indeed much faster, reaching over 23,000 miles in 2 hours. At this speed it would only take 5 to 6 years to return to Beiyuan Zhou Xian. In addition to the treasures in the ring, there was also a 5th-order upper-grade long sword and the black jade cauldron. The 2 magical artifacts were Old Master Huang's natal magical artifacts, and now their powers were greatly reduced. If he wanted to continue using them, he would need to reforge them. Wang Daoyuan did not have the ability to do so at the moment. However, these 2 magical artifacts still had great potential, especially the black jade cauldron. It could withstand a blow from the Sword of Origin restoring and was still undamaged. Its material was not ordinary. If he could reforge it in the future, it would also be a good defensive magical artifact. The flying boat flew west for a day, trying to avoid the islands along the way, and did not encounter any pursuers. On the second day, demonic birds began to appear near the flying boat. They did not approach the flying boat, nor did they go far away. They only kept a distance of more than 1,000 miles and stared at the flying boat. There was no doubt that these demonic birds had a master. It seemed that he had indeed been seen killing Old Master Huang. In the Qixing Sea Xiuxian community, the strongest beast-taming organization was the Imperial Regency. These demonic birds were most likely related to them. Wang Daoyuan did not deal with these demonic birds. They were extremely fast and agile in the air. It would be a waste of time to chase after them. He was now more than 400,000 miles southwest of the core area of the Sea of Seven Stars. He was still heading west. There were not many large islands or high-level spirit veins in the western part of the Sea of Seven Stars. The resources were not very rich, so the various forces did not place many experts here. If the blood shark wanted to send experts, they would need to mobilize from the southern part of the Sea of Seven Stars. They did not have Mahayana cultivators. Even soul formation cultivators did not have the ability to tear space. If he wanted to chase after them for a long distance, he could only take the flying boat slowly. He still had a high chance of escaping. After being stared at by the demonic birds for 4 hours, a low-grade 5th-grade flying boat appeared in front of him. It seemed that the cultivators who were going to intercept him had arrived. Wang Daoyuan did not panic. Looking at the grade of this flying boat, he knew that there would not be opponents with high cultivation levels. They probably knew that he was seriously injured, so they sent a few cultivators with low cultivation levels to take advantage of him. When the two flying boats were about 250 miles apart, 3 cultivators appeared on the bow of the opposite flying boat. 2 of them were mid-stage Yuanying and 1 was early-stage Yuanying. One of the mid-stage Yuanying cultivators shouted, "Dao Yuzhou, you are strong but you are seriously injured. How much of your strength can you use? Give up resisting and return to the Golden Scale Island with us. As long as Dao Yu is willing to hand over the inheritance, the Imperial Regency will not treat Dao Yu badly. With Dao Yu's talent, it would not be a problem for him to become an elder. If you resist stubbornly, we can only send Dao Yu on his way." Wang Daoyuan was relieved to see these 3 people. Although he was seriously injured and could not use half of his strength, he did not need to use much strength to deal with them. The flying boat continued forward. When they were about 200 miles apart, Wang Daoyuan activated his divine power. Using the divine power only consumed the power of one's divine sense. It did not affect one's body much. The spirit qi within 400 miles was instantly converted into fire-type spirit qi. Then the red yang primordial fire flew out and turned the surroundings into a sea of fire. The 3 Yuanying cultivators hurriedly left the flying boat to avoid the attack. The cultivator controlling the flying boat activated the defensive array and fled to the west, trying to escape the range of the divine power. Wang Daoyuan took out the vermilion bird fan and controlled the red yang primordial fire. The vermilion bird fan required spirit qi from the red yang primordial fire. Wang Daoyuan did not need to use any of his strength. He only needed to use the power of his divine sense. 3 vermilion bird phantoms flew out of the vermilion bird fan and chased after the 3 Yuanying cultivators. Domain God Art was not much more useful than ordinary God Art when used against an extremely powerful single opponent. However, when it came to group battles, if the opponent's strength was inferior to his, there wouldn't be much of a difference whether 1 or 10 came. The 3 Yuanying cultivators saw that the vermilion bird phantoms were not easy to deal with, so they all used escape techniques to dodge. The 2 mid-stage Yuanying cultivators each took out a refined corpse of the same level. The early-stage Yuanying cultivator took out another puppet of the same level. Wang Daoyuan did not take these things seriously. 3 more vermilion bird phantoms flew out of the vermilion bird fan. When the divine power was activated, he could cast 6 Dharma spells at the same time. The consumption of his divine sense was less than 6 times that of casting 1 Dharma spell. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was at ease, the 3 cultivators' faces turned pale. Their fear did not last long. Wang Daoyuan continued to control the flames to suppress their speed. Soon, the 3 cultivators were restrained by the vermilion bird phantoms and could only rely on their defensive Dharma artifacts. They were competing with a world of 400 miles. In less than 100 breaths, the 3 cultivators and the 2 refined corpses were burned to ashes. Their Dharma artifacts and interspatial rings were put away. Wang Daoyuan could not bear to burn the remaining puppet. He only used the flames to trap it and put it away in his interspatial ring. The flying boat that the 3 cultivators were on had already escaped the range of the divine power. Wang Daoyuan put away the divine power and chased after them on the 5th-grade flying boat. The difference in speed between the 2 flying boats was quite big. It only took 100 breaths to catch up with the other party. Using his divine sense, he found that there were only 2 peak-stage golden core cultivators on the flying boat. One of them was a pentaspirit root cultivator. Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed. If he could refine this pentaspirit root cultivator into a clone and cultivate it to the Yuanying realm, he would be able to cultivate it. In the future, he would not need to take risks to improve his cultivation technique. Chapter 795. He used his divine ability again, and Blood Shark's flying boat was already within range of his divine ability. Wang Daoyuan condensed a wall of water in front of the flying boat. The flying boat plunged into the wall of water and its speed became slower and slower. The two cultivators' faces were filled with despair. They could not escape. After the flying boat stopped, one of the cultivators wanted to self-destruct his golden core, but it was not the Pentas Spirit Veins cultivator. There was no point in keeping an ordinary golden core cultivator alive. Wang Daoyuan could not be bothered to save him. He waved his hand and released a sword beam, which pierced through the cultivator's forehead. The peak golden core cultivator died. The spirit power he had just condensed dissipated instantly, and he could no longer self-destruct. The remaining Pentas Spirit Veins cultivator was so frightened that he did not know what to do. Looking at the long sword in his hand and the soft armor on his body, they were not ordinary items. This person was probably not an ordinary golden core cultivator. He might be a descendant of an elder. Wang Daoyuan did not care about his identity at all. When there were too many debts, one would not worry. When there were too many lice, one would not bite. In any case, Blood Shark would not let him go. What was the big deal about killing an elder's descendant? The Pentas Spirit Veins cultivator was about to say something, but Wang Daoyuan used the White Tiger Soul subduing roar and knocked him unconscious. There was no time to cultivate another split soul now. He still had some left over from the previous split soul he had prepared. He took out a split soul from the soul nurturing pendant and used a secret technique to merge it into the soul of the Pentas Spirit Veins cultivator. After cleaning up the battlefield, he continued to head west. The three Yuanying cultivators were quite wealthy. They did not have a lot of spirit stones, but they had a lot of refining materials. They should be the higher-ups of Blood Shark here, and they were in charge of the affairs of the western part of the Sea of Seven Stars. The precious spiritual items that he collected were left in their hands. All kinds of fifth-grade refining materials added up to tens of thousands of kilograms. Among them were 2 fifth-grade demon cores. These things were placed in Beiyuan Zhou Xian. They were the hope of breaking through the Yuanying realm. As for things like Dharma artifacts, there was nothing that caught his eye. After dealing with this group of cultivators, the demon birds that were watching him still didn't leave. It seemed like Blood Shark's group was still unwilling to give up. It was unlikely that they would be intercepted ahead. Otherwise, they would have come to kill him a long time ago. There was no need to send 3 Yuanying cultivators to their deaths. However, the possibility of being chased after was still not small. Although a 5th-grade flying ship was fast as a major force, Blood Shark's refining skills weren't weak either. They wouldn't lack 6th-grade flying ships. Perhaps, somewhere behind him, there were many Type 6 flying battleships or flying ships chasing after him. Whether or not they could escape would depend on whether the pursuers caught up first, or whether the demon bird that was stalking them could not hold on. Half a day later, the newly created doppelganger was completely under his control. His name was Jiaqi and he was the disciple of a late Yuanying elder. He was a cultivator with 5 spiritual roots, and his 5 spiritual roots were relatively balanced. The highest water spiritual root was 2.4 inches while the lowest earth spiritual root was 1.5 inches. This talent was top-notch in the Sea of Seven Stars. It was more valuable than ordinary heavenly spiritual roots. He was also highly regarded and was sent to the western part of the Sea of Seven Stars to take up an important position. His master intended to let him gain experience for a few years and make some contributions before breaking through to the Yuanying realm. Then he could be transferred back to the Golden Scale Island and become an elder candidate. The reason why he came to intercept Wang Daoyuan this time was that he thought Wang Daoyuan was a pushover. If he could take down Wang Daoyuan, everyone in his entourage would be rewarded greatly. He wanted to use this to return to the Golden Scale Island as soon as possible. He didn't expect Wang Daoyuan to be able to kill them all when he was seriously injured. Naturally, the cultivation technique he practiced was also a 5 elements cultivation technique, named the 5 elements Yuan gathering technique. This technique was passed down from the Imperial Regency. It was much more advanced than the 5 spirit immortal technique. In the future, when he perfected his technique, he could use the 5 elements gathering technique as a reference. Unfortunately, the technique he knew could only be cultivated to the peak of the Yuanying realm. It was enough for him to use as a reference for the time being. This technique also focused on essence, energy, and spirit. The path it took was different from the 5 spirit immortal technique. It was to ensure that the cultivation speed was not too bad and reduce the consumption of resources as much as possible. In the case of consuming the same amount of resources, the cultivation speed was much faster than the 5-spirit immortal technique. This was what Wang Daoyuan needed the most. This cultivation technique was very suitable for the cultivation world of the Northern Abyss. Spiritual items were extremely scarce there. Jiaqi also cultivated a lot of Dharma spells, but there were not many that Wang Daoyuan liked. There was one Dharma spell that was very useful to him. This Dharma spell was the Heaven-Peering Secret Technique. Jiaqi was a peak golden core cultivator and a disciple valued by a late-stage Yuanying cultivator. The Heaven-Peering Secret Technique that he cultivated was much more complete than the 10,000 Corpse spiritual masters. Moreover, this Heaven-Peering Secret Technique also came with an eye technique. It worked together with the Heaven-Peering Eye condensed by the naked eye and divine sense. Whether it was the probing effect or the ability to see through illusions, it was much stronger. Jiaqi also had a better understanding of this Dharma spell. According to his memories, this Dharma spell was comprehended from a divine ability. Originally, it could only be cultivated to the peak golden core stage. Later, it could be cultivated to the soul formation stage after continuous deduction. Jiaqi's status was not low, so he knew a lot about the inside story of the Imperial Regency. For example, the demon birds that were currently tailing them were released by the blood shark cultivators on the nearby island. These demon birds could not fly too far. As long as they were more than 100,000 kilometers away from the island, they would be able to shake off their pursuit. Blood shark's experts who were chasing him were still more than 100,000 kilometers away. As long as they could shake off these demon birds, the blood shark would not be able to track them. Wang Daoyuan was relieved. Even if the blood shark's flying boat and warship were faster, it would still take them a few days to catch up to him. As long as these demon birds could not keep up, where would they find him in the vast sea? After flying for tens of thousands of kilometers, the demon birds stopped following them. Instead, a few new demon birds joined them. 3 days later, the last demon bird could not keep up. At this time, they had already reached the edge of the Sea of 7 Stars. The spirit chi here was very thin and there were almost no islands here. Wang Daoyuan deliberately turned southwest to create the illusion that they were taking a detour to the myriad demon islands. This was to prevent this group of people from going crazy and desperately chasing him to the west. If they were like the 10,000 Corpse spiritual master and used the doppelganger soul nurturing technique to control the demon beasts in the sea, it would not be impossible for them to reach Beiyuan Zhou Xian. After flying southwest for a short distance, the demon birds stopped following him. Wang Daoyuan flew for another 100,000 kilometers before turning west. This time those bastards should not continue to pursue him. The flying boat headed west, heading straight for Beiyuan Zhou Xian. Wang Daoyuan's doppelganger, Jiaqi, could not stay idle. He changed to the 5 spirits immortal transformation technique. He extracted the flame essence from the 5 elements spiritual fire in the space and condensed it into spiritual power seeds. Although the cultivation speed could not be compared to the spiritual power seeds formed by refining the spiritual fire, the structure was similar. After he formed his nascent soul, the spiritual power seeds could be integrated into the Yuanying. Wang Daoyuan had always wanted to improve the technique and transform the spiritual power seeds into the 5 internal organs. Just like how the 5 internal organs nourish the body, the 5 spiritual power seeds nourish the Yuanying. If he could succeed, his cultivation speed and the strength of his nascent soul would be greatly improved. Of course, this cultivation method did not have a technique that could be used as a reference. It was very dangerous and he did not dare to take this risk. Now that he had a doppelganger, it did not matter. It was not a big deal if he failed. It was just a matter of losing a doppelganger. Jiaqi slowly cultivated in the space of the spiritual pearl. It still took a long time for a golden core cultivator to change the technique. Wang Daoyuan also began to ponder the problem of improving the technique. He used the 5 elements primordial convergence technique as a reference to perfect his own 5 spirits immortal transformation technique. Of course, he did not neglect the nurturing of the 5 weapon spirit embryos. The road back to Beiyuan Zhou Xian was much smoother. After all, no demon beasts dared to provoke him. Apart from encountering a storm, he could travel straight. In addition, the speed of a 5th grade high-grade flying boat was more than twice that of a 4th grade mid-grade flying boat. The time it took was also greatly reduced. In just a little more than 4 years, The tall sky-beheading mountain range was already in sight. After dozens of years, he finally returned to Beiyuan Zhou Xian. Chapter 796. Wang Daoyuan drove the flying boat to the mouth of the 10,000 Rivers River. However, it was not peaceful near the mouth of the river. Demon beast activity was abnormally high. There were many rash demons. Fighting with each other was a common occurrence, so he did not take it seriously. When he arrived at the mouth of the 10,000 Rivers River, the entire Linhai prefecture seemed very desolate. When he left back then, there were many cultivators in Linhai prefecture. Sword kinesis flight cultivators came and went. It was very lively everywhere. Now there were not many people to be seen. The entire Linhai prefecture seemed to be empty. He did not disturb the 13 families of Linhai and went straight into the 10,000 Rivers River Valley. After more than 60 years, the concentration of spirit qi in Beiyuan had indeed increased. The concentration of spirit qi in the sky/mountain range had reached the limit of superior grade stage 4. Stage 5 spirit qi could appear at any time. Demon beasts were also very active. On the cliffs on both sides of the river valley, there were constantly stage 4 demon beasts spying. Wang Daoyuan could not be bothered with them. He only released a trace of Guiyuan's sword intent, and these demon beasts hurriedly hid far away. After crossing the 10,000 Rivers River Valley, he arrived at the territory of Qingli Prefecture. Wang Daoyuan took out a communication jade talisman and sent a message to Zhou Xian. Soon he received a reply. Zhou Xian was still at Jade's Spring Peak and had not gone to Blood Shadow's headquarters. He continued to go west along the 10,000 Rivers River. The demon beasts in the river were also abnormally active. Stage 4 demon beasts often appeared. When he arrived at the 10,000 Rivers Market, the demon beasts were still very active. At this time, the defensive formation of the 10,000 Rivers Market was fully activated. Demon beasts were constantly wandering outside the market. Some demon beasts even attacked the formation from time to time. This made Wang Daoyuan angry. What demon beasts were so bold that they dared to casually attack their own territory? The 4 top forces had already promised to protect the Wang family for 500 years. Why were the demon beasts still so arrogant? He did not care about the reason. He used the Big Dipper sword formation and summoned 36 sword shadows to attack the demon beasts in the river. The Big Dipper sword formation was enough to kill superior grade stage 5 demon beasts. The stage 4 demon beasts in the river could not withstand a single blow. The dozen or so demon beasts guarding the 10,000 Rivers Market died instantly. Wang Daoyuan casually put them away, and the flying boat landed beside Wanchuan Market. The defensive formation closed and the 12th uncle flew out. Daoyuan, you're finally back. Your aura is even stronger than Taoist Lei Yan's. Have you broken through to the Yuanying realm? The cultivation of the 12th uncle had also reached the middle stage of the Gold Core realm and was not far from the late stage of the Gold Core realm. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly replied, I'm currently at the middle stage of Yuanying. 12th uncle, why is this demonic beast so rampant? Didn't the 4 top forces come to help? The 12th uncle was overjoyed when he heard this. Now that you've broken through to the Yuanying realm, things will be easier. This matter started from the last spirit qi tide in the Hidden Dragon River. 40 years ago, the level 5 spirit qi tide lasted for an entire day. 2 old fellows from 10,000 years ago appeared among the demonic beasts. These 2 old fellows were both turtle-type demonic beasts with the bloodline of the black tortoise. They had a long lifespan. 10,000 years ago, when the level 5 spirit qi disappeared, they used a secret technique and fell into a deep sleep. Now that the recovery of spirit qi was becoming more and more obvious, they also woke up. During the last spirit qi tide, they caused a big ruckus in the Hidden Dragon River. They were all at the middle stage of level 5. Even Taoist Lei Yan and Ancestor Linglong couldn't take them down. The sect masters of the 4 major sects had to work together with their heirloom magic artifacts to repel them. Now one of the old tortoises is hiding in the Arctic tundra and the other is hiding in the outer sea. With the geographical advantage, we can't do anything to them. With their support, these level 4 demonic beasts are becoming more and more rampant. It's common for them to besiege our Wang family's businesses. It's even worse in Linhai State. Level 4 demonic beasts often break into the city. The 13 families are all moving their businesses and clansmen to the west of the sky/mountain range. In order to intimidate them, Taoist Lei Yen is now overseeing the Jade Spring Peak. Only then did the demonic beasts calm down a little. Turtle-type demonic beasts did have relatively long lifespans, and those with the black tortoise bloodline could live even longer. It had been thousands of years since a level 5 demonic beast appeared. Wang Daoyuan thought that the demonic beasts in Beiyuan were all dead. He didn't expect that there were still some that survived by using secret techniques. They didn't show up when dealing with the demons, but now they came out to take advantage of the situation. Wang Daoyuan snorted coldly. These demons are really tired of living. They dare to cause trouble at this time. Level 5 spirit chi is about to appear, and it's time to eliminate the demons. Otherwise, more level 5 demonic beasts will appear and threaten the status of the human race. After saying that, he took out the sword puppet from the space of the spiritual pearl. I'll go back to Jade Spring Peak first. This puppet will stay in Wanchuan Market to guard. Even if a mid-stage level 5 old turtle comes in person, it won't be able to defeat it. If a demonic beast attacks, it will naturally attack. If the puppet can't deal with it, I'll come over to help. The 12th uncle nodded and returned to Wanchuan Market with the puppet. Wang Daoyuan took the flying boat and quickly arrived at Jade Spring Peak. The 12th uncle should have already sent a message about his return. Everyone in the Wang clan welcomed him outside Jade Spring Peak. The flying boat stopped in front of the mountain. Wang Mingchen, who was wearing an embroidered robe and a crown on his head, saluted Wang Daoyuan and said, "Son respectfully welcomes royal father." The others also saluted. "Greetings, Grand King." Wang Mingchen's cultivation had already reached the middle stage of the Zifu realm, and he wasn't far from the late stage. He was only about 100 years old. It wasn't easy for him to have such a cultivation. Back then, at his age, he was still busy establishing his Zifu realm. Third brother and Wang Mingshan had already formed their gold cores. Wang Dezhao wasn't at Jade Spring Peak, so he didn't know what his cultivation was like. There were quite a few Zifu realm cultivators among the clansmen, and those who worked in the king's mansion had already established their Zifu realm. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, "No need to be so courteous. You can all go about your own business." After saluting, everyone dispersed. The third brother Wang Mingshan and Wang Mingchen followed Wang Daoyuan into the assembly hall. Taoist Thunderflame was sitting in the assembly hall. Wang Daoyuan stepped forward and saluted. "Greetings, master." Taoist Thunderflame nodded. "It's good that you've returned. Your cultivation is now above mine. The demonic beasts are rampant and it's not enough for me to intimidate them. Now that you've returned, I don't have to be on tenterhooks anymore." Wang Daoyuan nodded. "I've heard from the 12th uncle that 2 middle-stage 5th-rank turtles won't be able to last long in my hands. When I have the time, I'll go and slaughter them." Taoist Thunderflame shook his head. "You can't let your guard down. The demonic beasts' hiding places are all advantageous and can display more of their strength. Since these 2 turtles can rely on secret techniques to survive until now, there might be other 5th-rank demonic beasts. If we rashly enter the demonic beast's hiding place and other 5th-rank demonic beasts appear, we'll be in trouble. Let's first maintain the situation and wait for the 5th-rank spiritual vein to appear. Our cultivation speed is far superior to the demonic beasts. The higher the concentration of spiritual energy, the more advantageous it is for us. Before we have the confidence to win, we'll first stabilize the situation." Wang Daoyuan nodded. The demonic beast had many tricks up their sleeves, so it wasn't strange for them to have some backup plans. If a peak 5th-rank demonic beast were to appear, he wouldn't have the confidence to deal with it. He took out 2 pill bottles. "Master, you've worked hard all these years. Here are 20 nascent cultivating pills. Please raise your cultivation as soon as possible. We'll still need your strength to wipe out the demonic beasts." Taoist Thunderflame was very tempted, but he still waved his hand. "I'm already so old. It'll be hard for me to take another step forward in this lifetime. You should keep them. The higher your cultivation, the greater the hope of the human race suppressing the demonic beasts." "Master, don't worry. I have plenty of these." The spiritual herbs needed to refine the nascent cultivating pill were already ripe. As long as his alchemy skills improved, he could refine the nascent cultivating pill at any time. Previously, when he killed the bloodshark cultivator, he also snatched some pills. Taoist Thunderflame didn't refuse anymore. He accepted the 2 bottles of pills and smiled. "Then I'll take them. I'll strive to break through to the middle Yuanying stage as soon as possible. I'll be able to help you deal with the demonic beasts. You don't have to accompany this old man anymore. Go see Zhou Xian. You've been gone for several decades and she's been guarding this foundation for you. Previously, when we repelled the demonic beast, she also contributed a lot. Chapter 797. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and excused himself. He then went to the Immortal's cave at the bottom of the earth fire room. As soon as he entered the Immortal's cave, a fiery red figure jumped into his arms. Zhou Xian's cultivation had also reached the half-step Yuanying realm. She didn't say anything in his arms and just cried softly. After a long time, Zhou Xian finally stopped crying. You didn't come back for more than 60 years. I thought you were getting married and having children in the Sea of Seven Stars and wouldn't come back. He hugged Zhou Xian and comforted her. With such a beautiful woman at home, how could I not come back? I brought back a spiritual item that can help you form your nascent soul. You can also break through to the Yuanying realm now. The next time I go traveling, I'll also take you with me. After he said that, he took out the nascent replenishing fruit. Zhou Xian glanced at it and asked, "This seems to be a nascent formation fruit. Blood Shadow's records mentioned this thing before. But nascent formation fruits are usually 1 inch tall. Why is this one 5 inches tall?" Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "This is a nascent replenishing fruit. When the nascent formation fruit tree was on the verge of death, it used up all of its essence to grow this fruit. In addition to assisting in the formation of the nascent soul, it can also increase Yuanying's potential and heal Yuanying's injuries. I had to kill a peak stage Yuanying cultivator to get this fruit." Zhou Xian looked worried. "Are your injuries serious?" "They're very serious and haven't healed yet. Let's go back to the room and slowly heal. You can't be serious with your words. You should keep this nascent replenishing fruit for yourself. You often travel outside, so there's an 80% chance you'll have some hidden injuries during your Yuanying. Looking at the current situation, Zhou Xian's spiritual aura will recover in about 100 years. At that time, I'll naturally be able to break through my realm. There's no need to waste such a good thing." Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Don't worry. I've snatched a lot of good things. Besides, even if Yuanying has hidden injuries, as long as they aren't too serious, it won't affect her breakthrough too much. This nascent replenishing fruit couldn't be left there forever. Otherwise, its essence would be lost and it would be too wasteful. I snatched such a good thing for you. Shouldn't you reward me? Let's talk about it after I form my nascent soul. If I get pregnant now, not only will my nascent soul formation be delayed, the child might not even have a spirit root. That would be too unfair to the child. After forming his nascent soul, the child's innate talent will definitely be extremely good. There's no need to be in such a hurry." Wang Daoyuan could only restrain himself. "Do you have a suitable place to form your nascent soul? If not, let's go to the Zijin River branch. There's an upper-grade Tier 4 spirit vein there. I've also prepared all the 5-element spirit objects you need to form your nascent soul. You can form your nascent soul after some preparation." Zhou Xian shook her head. "There's no need to expose the Zijin River Valley. I've already found a place to form my nascent soul. It's at the meteorite field in the desert north of the mountains. That place used to be the territory of the Demon Clan and the Half-Demon Clan. After the appearance of the 5th-rank demon beast, the Demon Clan became more and more powerful. The demons of the Meteor Fall Plain slaughtered half-demons and human itinerant cultivators. Now the demons of the Meteor Fall Plain are the strongest. If I form my nascent soul there, it'll be a slap to the face of the Tier 5 demon. The tortoise hiding in the Arctic ice field will definitely come out to cause trouble. When that time comes, whether or not you can deal with that tortoise will depend on your ability." Wang Daoyuan hurriedly objected, "This is too risky. If too many demon beasts come, I'm not confident that I can stop all of them. How about this? The clone I caught at the Sea of Seven Stars can already break through to the Yuanying stage. I still have 2 Tier 5 demon cores. Let him form his nascent soul first and attract the demon beasts. After dealing with the demon beasts, you can form your nascent soul. When that time comes, we'll have 2 Yuanying cultivators and a Tier 5 puppet. We won't be afraid of any demon beasts coming to seek death. The clone is here to block the lightning. It doesn't matter if the nascent soul formation fails." The clone Jiaqi was at the peak of the Golden Core realm. His soul was not obviously damaged, After staying in the space of the Spirit Pearl for so many years, he was already familiar with the laws of the 5 elements. It was just that the nascent soul heavenly tribulation was too powerful. If he formed his nascent soul in the space, the spirit herbs that he had painstakingly collected would all be destroyed. On the way back from the Sea of 7 Stars, there were very few islands. There were also many demon beasts entrenched there. It was too risky to form his nascent soul there. He didn't expect that it would come in handy now. Zhou Xian naturally had no objections. She returned to her room to adjust her state and prepare to form her nascent soul. Half a month later, Zhou Xian was fully prepared. Wang Daoyuan said something to perfected Lei Yan and steered the flying boat towards the northwest. The demon beasts were indeed bold. When they saw a Tier 5 flying boat, they actually dared to come and snatch it. Wang Daoyuan casually killed them and kept their corpses. Soon the flying boat arrived at the meteorite field. The meteorite field was not small. It had a radius of thousands of miles. There were more than 10 Tier 4 spirit veins. Among them, there was even a Tier 4 superior grade spirit vein with no attributes. Huge mountains were located on this large flat oasis. Looking from high up in the sky, they did indeed look like stars sprinkled on the ground. This place was not far from the Arctic field. It was only 40 to 50,000 miles away. If a Tier 5 demon beast didn't show its face while undergoing the nascent soul tribulation here, it would really be a coward. It could more or less strike a blow to the confidence of the demon beasts and make them not dare to be so arrogant. The flying boat arrived at the center of the meteorite field on the highest mountain. This mountain was called the Golden Horn Peak. It did look a bit like a bull's horn. It was the territory of the Taurus clan. The Tier 4 superior grade spirit vein with no attributes was on this mountain. Wang Daoyuan's flying boat stopped above the mountain, which naturally alarmed the demon beasts. A guy wearing a golden robe with 2 huge bull horns on his head flew out of the Golden Horn Peak. This guy's cultivation was at the peak of the Tier 4. Wang Daoyuan did not restrain his aura, so he naturally did not dare to be presumptuous. He cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan and said, "This human senior, this is the territory of my Taurus clan. Moreover, my Black Ice ancestor has promised to protect this place. Dao, please give Black Ice ancestor face and don't stay here." Wang Daoyuan snorted coldly, "Black Ice ancestor? Isn't it just a bastard? When the demon beasts invaded, it was a coward. Now that the demon beasts have been pacified, it dares to stick its head out of its shell. It even dares to instigate a group of beasts to attack my property. Now that I've come to attack the demon beast's property, I've taken a fancy to this Golden Horn Peak. I'll give your Taurus clan 2 choices. Either pack up your things and scram or be exterminated." The Taurus's heart was raging with anger, but he did not dare to make a move. Although his cultivation was low, he could still sense the terrifying spiritual energy fluctuations on Wang Daoyuan's body. His cultivation was not lower than Black Ice ancestors and could easily kill him. The Taurus could only suppress his anger and plead, "My Taurus clan has lived here for a long time. There are still some calves on the mountain, please be merciful." Wang Daoyuan snorted coldly, "This is just learning from the demon beast's usual style. When you beasts bullied the human forces in the north of the mountain, you didn't leave a single one alive. Were you merciful at that time? I'll give you 2 hours. If you don't leave, you don't have to." After returning for a few days, he also understood the situation in Qingli County. Many of the human forces in the north of the mountain had been attacked by the demon beast. Especially Zhou Xian's side, which was the furthest from the south of the mountain, had been besieged by the demon beasts many times. If not for Zhou Xian's high cultivation and formations, he would have been slaughtered by the demon beasts. He was already old and now he often fought with the demon beasts. He did not have much time left. The other small forces were even more miserable. They did not have Zhou Xian's strength. Qingli County's reinforcements did not arrive in time. Many small forces that were further away were slaughtered by the demon beasts. The Taurus's temper flared up. "My Taurus clan would rather die than retreat. Although Senior is strong, my Taurus clan's ancestral methods are not to be trifled with. Black Ice ancestor will only need a few hours to reach here. When that time comes, the victor will be unknown." With that, he returned to the Golden Horn Peak. Then the mountain's defensive formation was activated. A thick defensive barrier enveloped the entire Golden Bull Peak. This formation was not simple. It had the meaning of a fifth-grade formation. It should be a fifth-grade formation left behind 10,000 years ago. Without the support of a fifth-grade spiritual energy, it could only display the strength of a fourth-grade peak. If a few fourth-grade peak demons were to guard it, it would not be a problem to hold off a Yuanying cultivator for a few hours. However, Wang Daoyuan was not an ordinary Yuanying cultivator. He held the origin-returning sword in his hand and countless silver streams of light surrounded him. After a while, the silver streams of light condensed into a giant sword that was hundreds of feet long. Wang Daoyuan swung the sword at the Golden Bull Peak. This formation was indeed not ordinary. Under the Demon Slayer sword, it actually withstood for a breath's time. After a breath's time, the defensive barrier collapsed. The Demon Slayer sword dispersed and the silver sword chi swept through the entire Golden Bull Peak. The originally lush Golden Horn Peak was only left with two colors, blood red and earthy yellow. There was not a single living thing left. The Taurus clan of the Golden Horn Peak had been exterminated. Chapter 798. The demons on the other mountain peaks were terrified, and some of them even began to move the lower-ranked demons away. Once Wang Daoyuan forced them to scram, they could escape as soon as possible. The Taurus clan was the strongest in the Meteor Fall Plain. They had a long history and had left behind a formation tens of thousands of years ago, but they were still destroyed in an instant. The other demons were much weaker and did not dare to fight head-on. Wang Daoyuan's goal was to lure out the old tortoise in the Arctic icy plains, as well as the other rank 5 demons who might not show their faces. He was not very interested in killing these low-ranked demons. The demons were courting death this time, and Wang Daoyuan had already planned to completely subdue them in the future. Of course, he could not directly kill all the demons. After all, hunting demons was also an important way for human cultivators to obtain cultivation resources. If he killed all the demons, the human race would also lose this important resource. He used the rain transformation technique and the entire Golden Horn Peak was covered in a downpour. The bloodstains on the mountain peak were quickly washed away. He took out his clone Jiaqi from the space in the Spirit Pearl and gave him a rank 5 demon core and a stalk of broken core grass. He was a Penta spirit root cultivator and did not need any 5-element spiritual items. Jiaqi flew to the peak of the Golden Horn Peak and sat cross-legged on a huge rock. He consumed the rank 5 demon core, meditated for a while and then consumed the broken core grass. With the broken core grass, the process of breaking the core was much faster. 15 minutes later, he refined the rank 5 demon core and integrated all his spiritual energy into the golden core. Not long after, he spat out the golden core. The golden core quickly expanded to about 4 feet in diameter. Soon, the golden core shattered and the purple mansion left his body. His purple mansion phenomenon was 5 semi-divine beasts, and they were flood dragons of the 5 elements. It seemed that this guy had a high concentration of dragon bloodline. Although he did not have any dragon characteristics, the dragon bloodline still had a great impact on him. He was a good seedling for cultivating the true dragon body tempering technique. But unfortunately he had to be used as a test subject for the 5-spirit immortal transformation technique. Zhou Xian exclaimed, "This guy's talent is not bad, but unfortunately he met you." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "To be able to work for me, that's a blessing he cultivated in his previous life." Zhou Xian had a look of disdain on her face, but she didn't say anything. His purple palace quickly crumbled and his divine soul was exposed. The fragments of his golden core and purple palace realm gathered toward his divine soul, and 5 Jiao dragons circled around him. At this moment, 5 fist-sized spiritual energy seeds flew out from his body. The spiritual energy seed quickly shrank and became extremely condensed before fusing into his divine soul. Jiaqi did not take the nascent formation fruit, so the formation of Yuanying was slower. It took nearly 2 hours for the gold core and the purple palace fragments to completely fuse into his soul. A 3-inch tall Yuanying floated in the air. The 5 illusory flood dragons also transformed into flood dragon tattoos, which were engraved all over Yuanying's head like tattoos. It seemed like not everyone was capable of fusing their divine beast phenomenon together. Wang Daoyuan's situation was never mentioned in any of the cultivation manuals or books. Yuanying was formed and the heavenly tribulation was about to arrive. A dark cloud appeared in the sky and quickly expanded. Wang Daoyuan also steered the flying boat away from Golden Horn Peak. The spirit chi density in Beiyuan was still too low, so the tribulation cloud gathered at an extremely slow speed. It took 2 hours for the tribulation cloud to grow to a diameter of 50 miles. With Jia Qi's talent, if he formed his nascent soul in the Sea of Seven Stars, the tribulation cloud would be at least 200 to 300 miles wide. However, this was also good. The weaker the heavenly tribulation, the easier it would be to transcend it. The tribulation cloud stopped expanding, and the heavenly tribulation covered an area with a diameter of 50 miles. Jia Qi took out the black jade cauldron and infused it with spirit qi, preparing to withstand the heavenly tribulation that was about to descend. This black jade cauldron was old Master Huang's natal Dharma artifact. Although it hadn't been reforged and couldn't unleash much of its power, it was still a grade 5 Dharma artifact. However, it was still a peak 5th tier magic tool, and its strength was comparable to an ordinary low-grade 6th tier magic tool. It wouldn't be a problem to withstand the Yuanying heavenly tribulation. Soon a green ball about a foot in diameter fell from the sky. Jia Qi raised the black jade cauldron to block the green ball. The green fog instantly enveloped the entire Golden Horn Peak. The black jade cauldron didn't disappoint. It received all the power of the tribulation cloud and Jia Qi was unharmed. With the black jade cauldron blocking, it was easier for him to transcend the tribulation cloud than Lei Yanjinren. After all, the purple gold pagoda was only a peak grade 4 Dharma artifact. Although it was made of strong materials, it wasn't a grade 5 Dharma artifact. Although the black jade cauldron's power was greatly reduced, it could still exert the power of an intermediate grade 5 Dharma artifact. If it could withstand the first tribulation cloud, the remaining 4 wouldn't be a problem. 2 hours later, the 5 tribulation clouds passed. The black jade cauldron was intact and so was Jia Qi. He didn't have any minor theurgies, so he didn't know how to transcend the theurgy tribulation. After the 5 tribulation clouds, the Yuanying heavenly tribulation was over. The tribulation cloud in the sky started to turn from gray to purple gold. 15 minutes later, the cloud layer completely turned purple gold. A purple gold ball of light fell from the sky and landed on Jia Qi's Yuanying. Yuanying's aura instantly soared, and the tribulation cloud in the sky also became much thinner. Wang Daoyuan immediately controlled the flying boat and flew towards the Golden Horn Peak. The gifts from the heavens after the Yuanying heavenly tribulation were very valuable. This was especially true for cultivators with hidden injuries. By absorbing this energy, they would be able to heal their injuries to a great extent. As long as it wasn't too serious, they could more or less recover. After Wang Daoyuan formed his nascent soul, he was also heavily injured and Yuanying was also affected. If he absorbed the power of the tribulation cloud now, he should be able to fully recover from his injuries. At this time, an ice-blue auspicious cloud appeared in the north. More than 4 hours had passed since the destruction of the Taurus clan. That cowardly tortoise of the Arctic icy plains should also show its head. After a while, the auspicious cloud arrived more than 300 miles north of the Golden Horn Peak. A muscular man stood on the auspicious cloud, his whole body covered in ice-blue armor that looked a bit like a tortoise shell. Seeing the 3 people absorbing the gifts from the heavens, his face revealed a greedy expression. Daoyu, as a Yuanying cultivator, why do you bully the weak and kill members of the demon clan as you please? Do you want to start a war with the demon clan? Wang Daoyuan sneered. Didn't you demon clan start a war with us humans 40 years ago? Over the years, my Qingli commandery's industries have been attacked many times by the demon clan, and my Wang clan has also lost many people. What, you can kill my clansmen as you please, but I killed a few demons that aren't related to you by blood. Are you not happy? The old tortoise snorted. More than 10,000 years ago, the human clan withdrew from the northern mountains and the sky-beheading mountain range. Why are you barging in now? You have invaded our territory, so it's only right for us to retaliate. Wang Daoyuan didn't want to make a move now. He wanted to stall for time and see if other 5th-rank demons came to die. He continued to argue with the old tortoise. 10,000 years ago the demon clan was in turmoil and you demon clan were cowards. Our human clan's ancestors fought with their lives and suppressed the demon clan. After the human clan suffered heavy casualties, you took advantage of the situation and invaded. The sky-beheading mountain range and the northern mountains were also seized by you demon clan through despicable means. The human clan never agreed to it. A few decades ago when the demon clan rebelled again, you demon clan were still cowards. Now you want to come out and snatch the benefits. You're really shameless. I have already reached an agreement with you demon clan. Golden core humans and 4th rank demons won't casually fight. When humans and demons with lower cultivation levels fight, we can't interfere. But you demon clan didn't abide by the rules, so it's only right for you to be exterminated. Hearing Wang Daoyuan call the demon clan cowards, the old tortoise was furious. Ignorant child, you dare to speak rudely. You are courting death. After speaking, he stretched out a hand and slapped at Wang Daoyuan. This hand instantly turned into an enormous tortoise claw, emitting a powerful suppressive force. Zhou Wan's cultivation was lower. Under this suppressive force, she could not quite catch her breath. Wang Daoyuan did not want to directly slay him. Instead, he took out the black dragon halberd and welcomed it. Brandishing the large halberd, he smashed it on the old tortoise's claw. This guy was worthy of being an old fellow who had lived for more than 10,000 years. His strength was indeed not weak. Although Wang Daoyuan blocked this claw, he was also knocked back several miles away. Just in terms of physical body, there was a considerable gap between him and this old tortoise. Chapter 799. The black ice tortoise had the bloodline of the black tortoise. The black tortoise had the strongest physical body among all the divine beasts, and it also had an extremely strong suppressive force. The body of a black tortoise bloodline semi-divine beast was also far stronger than that of ordinary beasts. Beasts that could compete with it in terms of physical strength were rare. Seeing that it had the upper hand, the old tortoise sneered, "You dare to compete with a black tortoise bloodline in terms of physical strength? You overestimate yourself." Wang Daoyuan did not take it seriously. He had also tested the old tortoise's ability in this fight. The higher the cultivation level, the less advantage a beast had over a human. This old tortoise was at most a mid-stage Yuanying. Coupled with the fact that semi-divine beasts had divine powers, its strength was equivalent to a late-stage Yuanying. Yinglong's demon-slaying sword could kill peak Yuanying cultivators with divine powers, so he did not need to use his full strength to deal with this bastard. However, it was a pity to kill it just like that. He had to think of a way to lure out other level 5 beasts. 10,000 years ago there were many level 5 beasts. If 2 of them survived, there might be more. Since the old tortoise had the upper hand, it naturally wanted to get rid of Wang Daoyuan as soon as possible. It opened its mouth and spat out a large amount of ice attribute spiritual power at the Golden Horn Peak. The spiritual power turned into a gust of cold wind as soon as it left the old tortoise's mouth. The meteorite field was a large oasis with many springs and rivers, so the water attribute spiritual energy was quite rich. Once it met the cold wind, it turned into flying snow. This move was similar to the Snow God Palace's frozen sky, and its power was not to be underestimated. Wang Daoyuan did not care about this move, but Zhou Wan was absorbing the gift of heaven and earth below. He did not dare to dodge and used his divine powers to convert the surrounding spiritual energy into fire tribute spiritual power. Then he released the Red Sun True Fire to protect the Golden Horn Peak. The spiritual energy in Beiyuan Zhou Xian was too thin after all, and it limited the power of the realm divine powers. There were more than 10 level 4 spirit veins nearby, but the spiritual energy they produced could only protect the Golden Horn Peak. Of course, the old tortoise was also helpless. It was an ice attribute beast, so its divine powers should be related to ice. After leaving the frozen ice plains, he would not be able to use his full strength. The cold wind was dispelled by the Red Sun True Fire. The old turtle exclaimed, "Domain divine ability. I didn't expect such a person to appear in the human race." After saying that, his entire body emitted a cold aura. Within 100 miles of his body, cold winds howled, and there was also an extremely strong power of law. This should be his divine ability. Wang Daoyuan wouldn't just watch the old tortoise use his domain to suck away all the spirit qi around the old tortoise. Then he controlled the true fire of Scarlet Yang to continuously invade the vicinity of the old tortoise to consume the power of the cold wind. Old tortoise could only rely on its own strength to resist the surrounding flames. He didn't dare to waste any more of his energy. The area of the cold wind gradually shrank, and finally formed a fist-sized icy blue ball that contained an astonishing amount of energy. The old tortoise was also sinister enough. It did not use this small ball to attack Wang Daoyuan, but instead, it attacked the Golden Horn Mountain. The layer of flames on the Golden Horn Mountain was not enough to block the old tortoise's full force attack. The old turtle sneered, "Your divine ability has great potential, but your methods are too shallow. If you could develop some of your potential, I wouldn't be your opponent at all. But now you're still far from it." Wang Daoyuan did not mind. He took out a 3-inch tall purple gold pagoda from his sleeve and smashed it towards the ice ball. From the small pagoda came Ling Long's screams like a pig being slaughtered. "Big brother, save me. He's a mid-grade 5th rank beast and he has a small divine ability. I'm not his opponent." Wang Daoyuan was somewhat helpless. "You have the foundation of a 7th rank magic tool. Not to mention a mid-grade 5th rank bastard, even a peak 5th rank beast can't do anything to you. Take care of him and I'll give you more spiritual fire later." Hearing about spiritual fire, Ling Long immediately became spirited. Ling Long Pagoda's strength should be far above his master's. Wang Daoyuan knew his master's strength. It was already difficult to deal with this ice turtle, and there was still a water turtle in the sea. His master was no match at all. Ling Long was different. Her main body could directly absorb the spiritual energy of the 9 elements and transform it into her own strength. Coupled with its high strength, a 5th rank beast could not break it at all. Ling Long Pagoda rose to a height of 3 feet and directly sucked in the ice turtle's ice ball. This time the old turtle's face turned green. It thought that victory was in its grasp, but in the end, its killing move was gone. The ice turtle did not want to continue fighting and turned to run. How could Wang Daoyuan let it do as it wished? He controlled his spiritual energy to condense a wall of fire in front of it to reduce its escape speed. He took out the origin returning sword and waved his hand to release a few sword rays. The old turtle also knew that ordinary methods would not be able to block it. The speed of a sword cultivator's magic was extremely fast, and even a beast would find it difficult to dodge. Turtle-type beasts were not known for their speed, so escaping was even more hopeless. It quickly revealed its true form and turned into a black turtle with a diameter of 300 meters. Its head, limbs and tail retracted into its shell, and a thick layer of blue ice armor condensed on its body. The black turtle's specialty was defense, and this old turtle's defense was not weak. A few sword rays slashed on the turtle's shell, but only a few pieces of ice were broken. Since it could not escape, Wang Daoyuan played with it slowly. He took out the black dragon halberd and stabbed the old turtle a few times. The old turtle planned to stubbornly resist until the end, and would rather die than show its head. Wang Daoyuan also planned to lure out other 5th rank beasts, so he did not kill it. An hour later, the purple-gold auspicious clouds above the Golden Horn Peak dissipated, and the gift of heaven and earth ended, but no other beast showed up. Wang Daoyuan did not waste any more time, and it was not bad to take down an ice turtle. "Ling Long, keep this bastard in the pagoda and we'll play slowly later." The Ling Long Pagoda instantly grew to a height of 3,000 meters and kept the ice turtle inside. Then it shrank to 3 inches and returned to Wang Daoyuan's sleeve. Wang Daoyuan also drew out some flames to reward him for his contribution. The ice turtle was taken down just like that, and the beasts on the nearby mountains who were full of hope completely lost all hope. Even the 5th rank beasts were no match for him and they could only be slaughtered. Wang Daoyuan returned to the Golden Horn Peak, and Jiaqi's cultivation had been consolidated. Zhou Xian also absorbed a lot of gift of heaven and earth and was now in a very good state. He took out a large pile of things from the space of the spiritual pearl, which were needed to form his nascent soul and pass the tribulation, including the essence of the 5 elements except for the essence of fire. There was 1 nascent replenishing fruit, 1 core fragmentation grass, and 5 elemental shields of the 5th rank. The things needed to form my nascent soul and pass the tribulation are all prepared. The spirit energy here in Beiyuan Zhou Xian is not dense enough, and the power of the heavenly tribulation is much weaker. With these things, passing the tribulation will not be a problem. Zhou Xian took these things and nodded confidently. Wang Daoyuan and Jiaqi left the Golden Horn Peak, and Zhou Xian sat cross-legged on the top of the mountain, and first recognized the 5 artifacts as its master. She also knew the steps to form her nascent soul, and had seen the sequence of Jiaqi's nascent soul before, so it was not a problem. She took out the red phoenix's nirvana fire, and melted the 4 essences of the 5 elements and swallowed them directly. Then she ate the core fragmentation grass, and the golden core quickly left her body, and quickly expanded to a diameter of more than 4 feet. After the golden core shattered, Zhou Xian immediately ate the nascent replenishing fruit, and threw the remaining fruit core to Wang Daoyuan. Then the purple mansion left her body. The fragments of the golden core gathered at the purple mansion, and the purple mansion also collapsed and her soul was exposed. A red phoenix's shadow formed by flames surrounded her soul. At this moment, a white jade energy was emitted from her body. The nascent replenishing fruits effect was so strong that it was a little evil. With the help of the white jade energy, the Yuanying quickly took shape, and was now 4 inches and 3 centimeters tall. Most cultivators with heavenly spiritual roots could not reach 4 inches of Yuanying, and even the direct disciples of the soul formation stage could not do so. The red phoenix's shadow also turned into a fiery red pattern, and was engraved on the Yuanying's forehead. In less than 15 minutes, the nascent soul formation was completed. The Yuanying was still wrapped in a thick layer of white jade energy. The energy of the nascent replenishing fruit was obviously not used up, but Zhou Xian's potential had reached its limit, and she could not absorb any more energy. However, this energy would not be wasted. When the Yuanying was injured during the tribulation, she could use this energy to heal her injuries. After the Yuanying was formed, dark clouds appeared in the sky again and quickly expanded. 15 minutes later, the tribulation cloud expanded to a diameter of 300 miles. The area covered by the heavenly power also reached a diameter of 200 miles. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.